This July 14th, 2022. In the interest of time efficiency and ensuring that everyone who wishes to address the council is given the opportunity to do so, the following will apply to all comments made by the public. If you desire to be recognized by the chair, please fill out a request form and present it to the city clerk present here in council chambers. Each speaker shall be allotted 3 minutes to address the council, unless such time is extended by the mayor or by questions from council. Groups shall designate a spokesperson to avoid repetition of comments. Every effort will be made to avoid interrupting speakers. We thank you for participating in your city government. We ask that you please silence all electronic devices at this time. With that, I call this council meeting to order. Could we all please stand for the invocation? I'd like to invite Pastor Randy Law from the National Day of Prayer of Osceola County. Randy, if you'll please come and lead us in prayer, and please remain standing after the prayer for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you so much for your mercy and your grace upon our nation, Lord. Father, for allowing us to be the United States of America, Father, and to be able to have the opportunity to have meetings like this, Lord. Father, I thank you for every councilman that's here, Lord, for the mayor, Father, the city manager, and so many involved with the decisions that are made for this city. Father, as this nation was one nation founded under God, I ask, Lord, that you give them wisdom that comes from you, Lord. Only you know the future. I ask that you help them make wise choices, Lord, not to go by just what they're saying, that they hear people say, Lord, but that they seek out what are you saying, Lord? What is the best for the future generations that are coming ahead, oh Lord, our kids, our grandkids. Father, may you direct the steps, the decisions that these members make, Lord. Help the citizens, Lord, to just make wise decisions. Lord, may this city have your peace, your love, and your joy, Father. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Law. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Blackwell.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Here.
Councilmember Urban.
Here.
Councilmember Askew.
Here.
Councilmember Trace.
Here.
Mr. Sturgeon, do you have any updates to the agenda that you'd like to make at this time?
Yes, Mayor, I have several items. On the consent agenda, I'll be pulling item G, and that'll be returned at a later date.
Item number G.
Yes, sir. And I have another item, but we'll address that during consent. It's a verbiage change. Pull council action item number 1, which is the purchase of the 9.5 acres for a park. It's my opinion we need additional financial analysis on that issue. I'm also requesting that council action items 2 and 4 be worked together. Mr. Swingle will be doing that presentation, and then council action item 3 will follow that. And that's the way it's loaded in the cartridge for the presentation.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. At this time, we have a presentation by Tony O'Lory, a transportation or update from Osceola County regarding our future.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having me here today. I'm here to give you an update on our transportation and transit work program and give you information about our regional partners and all the work they're doing in our county as well. So just to let you know, we do have a FY22 budget of about almost $78 million, and that's for anything from sidewalks to trails to roads, transit projects. And the funding that we utilize for those projects come from our mobility fee zones. So right now we actually have 3. There shows 4 on this slide because the east zone was divided into 2, the northeast and the southeast. So that's primarily where we get our funding. We also get an awful lot of funding from state and federal grant program, so we're all about partnership and helping find additional dollars to really expand what we can do at the county. And a lot of our work program right now, the county in 2019 actually refinanced the bonds for the Osceola Parkway toll road, and we received about $200 million worth of those revenues. So we've been using that for a number of road widening projects that we'll talk about tonight. Our budget for our operating is about $47 million. Now about 23 is for our road and bridge, which is a separate department than transportation, but it is monies that is used for transportation, and this has everything to do with links. We fund links out in our budget, as well as any planning activities or capital construction activities. And most of those dollars actually come from our gas taxes. So, and you can see it's a number of 1 to 6 cents in our red light camera revenue as well. So we use that to fund our operating and maintenance budgets. A lot of our roads also get, not only are they constructed by the county, but we also enter into a lot of mobility fee agreements, and I think you have that as well. So far, we have actually built about $105 million worth of new roads, framework roads, utilizing where the developer comes in, builds the roads, and then we give them some mobility fee credits for building those roads. We have had 3 new framework roads get actually opened in the last 2 years. So we opened Hoagland, Neo City Way, as well as Cross Prairie Parkway. So we've had some success of getting some roads opened even during the pandemic. You can see one of these slides with us having the masks on. This slide is a really good one to show all of our road projects. So what we did for you was the lime green is your borders. And then we showed your JPA area and all the road widening that is occurring within your JPA limits as well. And we'll talk through these projects. There are a lot of slides, but I'll go through them quickly, and then if you have any questions at the end, you can ask. So the Simpson Road project, we are reconstructing Simpson Road from Boggy Creek all the way to US 192. The first project, which is phase 1, was we got $13 million or $14 million in FDOT funding. The project's about $22 million, and it's actually starting construction this next month. So that's from Boggy Creek to about Myers Road, and that will be widened to about 4 lanes. Simpson Road Phase 2, 3, 4 will pick up at Myers Road and head to US 192. And so that project is actually in about 90% engineering plans, and we are acquiring right-of-way. We look to put that out on the street about the first quarter of 2023. That's about a $73 million project. Boggy Creek will also be widened. That's with the bonds that we utilized for Osceola Parkway. This is also a partnership project because we did receive about $7 million from City of Orlando for this widening for some development they had on our borders. So when we can find partners to help with our road widening projects, that's what we do. That's also about a $73 million project, and we are in final engineering for that and roadway right-of-way, and look to put that out in the first quarter of next year as well. Bill Beck Boulevard was an old agreement we had with the city of Kissimmee to build this road. That's under construction now, so if you've ever taken Osceola Parkway and you see those big cranes, that's this project. We'll be putting a light there at Bill Beck right near the turnpike. That was about a $10 million project. Parton Settlement will be widened as well. That's utilizing the Osceola Parkway revenues as well. That's about a $42 million project. And again, we are at the end of design and right-of-way acquisition for that project, and look to start construction Q1 of 2023. And if you see all the typical sections, as we're widening the roads, we're making sure we have sidewalks as well as multi-use paths with all of these widening projects, because we want to have complete streets with divided roadways with medians. Poinciana Boulevard is our last project utilizing those Osceola Parkway bond monies, and that'll be widened from Pleasant Hill all the way down to Crescent Lakes Way. and that's about a $74 million project. And again, that's in the same schedule as the other roads I was just talking about. We look to put that under construction in Q1 of next year. So all in all, we've got about 900 parcels that we are acquiring for these roadway projects. So our right-of-way people are very busy right now, as well as our eminent domain attorneys. So right now, we've got about 400 under our belts, and we're working on the last 500. Neptune Road, I know you'd be very interested in this one. This one is also right at the very end of design and right-of-way activity. So we look to put this project out. We probably put this out in 2 different bids, but that is in Q1 of 2023. And we federalized this project and got it through the federal clearances, and we've received about $15 million from the state and federal sources for this road. So we're proud of that coming in. Old Lake Wilson is sort of our next one on our list. That's over on our west side of our county. That's to widen from 2 to 4 lanes. This project's about $80 million. We are finalizing the design, the PD&E for that, and we are going to put out the design. It's in our FY23 budget. We've got this one federally cleared as well, and it is on the priority project list for Metro Plan Orlando. Sinclair Road is also on our west side. This is a very important connector. Out there, it will connect Bellicita up to Sinclair Road at Traditions Boulevard. We're finalizing the PD&E. We look to have our public meeting next month and look to enter into design next year at some point. Osceola Polk County Line Road is also one of our partner projects. CFX is actually, it's about a 3-mile project, and CFX is paying for 1 mile of it. And that is in conjunction with the Poinciana Parkway extension that will be extended from its curtain at 1792 to 532. So this project is in design, and we look to start right-of-way next year. And that's sort of being built with the Poinciana Parkway extension. This project is for Councilman Trace, because I know he loves diversion diamonds. So I put this one in here because we actually designed this for DOT. They asked us to step in and help them design it, and then the state has been constructing it, and it was actually, the traffic was shifted over this week. And so if you want to see a diversion diamond, and why this is should be of interest to you, is that the Turnpike is going to be utilizing this kind of method for their new interchange, as well as FDOT. It's been a little wobbly, I'll have to say. I was talking with the Director of Operations yesterday, and some people going the wrong way on the diversion diamond, and so they're out there putting up signs and doing more safety. It's going to be, you know, because it's a different traffic pattern, so there's going to have to be some education of the drivers in this region. But if you want to go see how one operates, it's open. So I'm going to get over there myself. West Side Boulevard is also on the west side. It's going to connect all the way up to US 192, way down into Polk County at Ronald Reagan. So this is one of our developer agreements. We are working with TWA to acquire some land so we can get it through that area. But this is a road that would be parallel to US 27, which will be an important road as well, over on the west side. Neovation Way is another one of our partner projects. We received a grant, a $6 million grant from the Department of Economic Opportunity, and we're actually putting out a design build contract for this one next month. And this will connect Neo City Way to Neptune Road, so it'll be a good another access way to get onto US 192 through Neo City, as well as the Neo City development. So we're looking at that, and we're going to really also interesting project. I don't have a slide on it, but we're going to look at an autonomous vehicle shuttle from the Sunrail station downtown Kissimmee into Neo City. So we'll keep you guys apprised on that one. That'll be a really interesting project to work on. Canoe Creek, this is another partner project, but the partner is you. So you all paid for, if you recall, a PD&E analysis. That has kicked off. We're going to get this federally cleared. It is number 3 on the Metro Plan Orlando prioritized project list. So we'll be working with you all on design funding and partnership with that, as well as construction and right-of-way. This one has all these projects pretty steep. They're running between $80 and $100 million. This is another project that hits your borders. It's the Fortune Lakeshore Trail. It's actually a 10-foot multi-use trail that runs from Fortune Road to Lakeshore Boulevard. It's under construction now. It's about a $15 million project, and we got federal funding for this as well, so that should be open in 2023. So that'll provide a good connector for the citizens in this area. The Kissimmee St. Cloud Connector Trail is right behind it. So this project will be an 8-foot multi-use trail, and it's going to run along the C31 trail, and it'll connect into the Fortune Lakeshore Trail. So we've got that in final design right now. We are looking to start construction of this connector trail next year, and this is all federal funds as well. Sunbridge, this is an important one, especially for this area. So this was an interesting project that we entered into with the developers, Tavistock, and so you can sort of see the darker outline of the big Sunbridge development. And so this has about $650 million worth of improved roadways. With that, some of them are the county will take care of, and then within the Sunbridge development, the developer will take care of. And what we did with this one is we did an extensive traffic modeling effort to determine whose traffic was whose. Was it regional traffic? Was it developer traffic? And we entered into agreement with them on the portion of mobility fee credits they would get within Tavistock. So for example, Sunbridge Parkway, which you see is the north-south road, that's going to be an important regional road because it will go from US 192 all the way up to 528 in Orange County. So that'll be a parallel road to Narcoossee. And then you can see the beltway around Osceola County, which is called the Osceola Parkway Extension down to the northeast extension. That'll come right through that development, and then we're going to be improving the roads east-west Searles, Jack Brack, Jones, and Nova. And so actually Searles portions are underway, under construction. Jack Brack we're putting out for design in the next month. Nova, we're going to do the PD&E, and we're going to put that out in next month as well. So all in all, the county's portion is about $380 million worth of the $650 million, and we're looking to finish all of this up by 2030. So once the Osceola Parkway roads get complete, we're rolling right into the Sunbridge Parkway, the Sunbridge roadways. So this is the slide about Searles, and you'll see the Searles-Narcoossee intersection is pretty much complete, and then now they're finalizing plans for the existing Searles roadway to widen that to 4 lanes, and we're hoping to get that underway under construction next year as well. This Southeast Lake Toho development, I touch on this. We want to, so this includes our mixed use districts 5 and 6, as well as the Green Island and Bronson and the Edgewater. And so what we're doing is we're taking what we did with Sunbridge, which we felt was a really good model, and we are actually utilizing this to make sure that the transportation improvements prior to the developments getting in place, that we know who's paying for what mobility fees credits are going to be used, as well as when they'll be built. So right now, we're in the process of doing that modeling for our traffic, and we're working with all the developers, we're working with the city, your staff, and we hope to have an agreement with the different developers of what they're responsible for and when we can get those transportation improvements in place. We can't forget about our partner projects. Florida's Turnpike, FDOT, and Central Florida Expressway Authority also have a lot of funding coming our way. Central CFX is really busy planning and starting to build that beltway around Osceola County. Florida's Turnpike is busy widening the turnpike. We're sharing them with all the development activity, and they've got plans to widen down to 192, but they may move up the PD&E for south of 192 based on the graphic that I just showed you. But this is a really important graphic for you to know, because a part of our job at the county is really to partner with all of our regional transportation agencies and make sure that the dollars that are available in Central Florida, that Osceola County gets their fair share, if not more. So right now, in the next 5 years, there's about $1.5 billion worth of transportation dollars allocated for Osceola County by our partner agencies, which is a lot, right? So in fact, most of CFX's work program and Florida's Turnpike for this area is allocated. And then when you add in all of the improvements I just talked about within Osceola County, for the next 5 years, you're talking about $2.3 billion worth of transportation improvements, which is a lot of construction, a lot of projects being, and roadways and trails being developed. So sorry. The last thing I wanted to make sure that you are aware of is that about a year ago, Osceola County worked with Lynx and Florida's FDOT on a new Lynx route. And that is going to go up Narcoossee, and I'll show you that on the next slide. What's important to this is that the current Link 10 will be extended over to Narcoossee. They're going to pull it off 10th Street because the roadway is just not really built for transit. They're going to put it on 192, and then they're going to connect this up to Medical City. So that should be, that's funded. DOT approved the service development grant. The county put in half, which is about $500,000 per year, and this should go into effect in December. Now, the stops have not been, this is just concept, the bus stops have not been placed anywhere yet, and I know I just got an email from one of your staff members about some potential diversion, so we'll work with your staff on if that can become a reality, but I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that too tonight. So that I went through really quick because I know you have a big agenda, so if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them.
Are there any questions from council or comment?
I have one.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. Thank you for the update, Tani. I know you're super busy. I mean, obviously, when you go over this whole program, I think we're like, I know how busy your staff is. But I wanted to ask you, is there any thought about connecting the Sunrail station into into St. Cloud somehow with a bus or an autonomous, I can't even say autonomous vehicle?
So we have the connector and then the Link 10, but I could see how close we could, get that and maybe see what, what the potential for that.
Yeah,
could be.
because I mean, I love the Sunrail. I know, like, if you're struggling with a vehicle, it would be hard to make that distance. And then I also know you were able to get the FDOT to come do that survey of 10th Street.
Yes.
Is there any plan in the horizon for, like, design money for that, or is it still too far out?
Yeah, so I know they were finishing up the feasibility study for the complete streets for that, and there is monies for complete streets, and I can go back and ask and see where we're at with that. I haven't been too much, I know your staff has really been engaged with that as well, but we can check.
Okay. And the price tags were shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and
Like
it doesn't
New
get
Creek,
better.
100 million, like,
Yeah.
that's shocking, so.
Yeah,
Anyways, thank you for the update.
sure.
Councilmember Trace.
Thank you. Great presentation, great update. Yeah, I guess I have to explain the whole excitement about Diverging Diamond. My wife and I were on vacation, and we drove through one, and the way it was set up, you couldn't really tell, so I explained it to her, and I was excited. And she's like, "What? I don't get what you mean." But the way the walls were, you couldn't even tell you were going through it. But that's my worry here with those is a lot of tourists can barely work roundabouts the right way because, south of the equator, it goes down the other way. So, that's my worry with diverging diamonds, at least on the turnpike, like, seems like more local or not as much international traffic. But yeah, probably need walls or something to make sure that folks don't, go the wrong way. My biggest thing is, for us, at least with our transportation master plan, is making some of the linkages. We don't need to widen a lot of these roads if we have better interconnectivity between it. We kind of have this mass in the middle of the city that doesn't have a lot of roadway connections because it's farms that are now developing. So just making sure that, we hold the developers accountable to make some of those roadway connections. And even if there's a missing gap, that's why we have mobility fee funds. That's why we can do takings, just doing some of those. So that's kind of a lot of our master plan is not really shown in the county's master plan, but is that something that at some point we can work together to make sure that as we're doing projects, maybe it's just the county helps out because it generally helps everyone when we do some of these projects, but then also, you guys have staffed up a bunch on the transportation side. Once this first tranche of construction projects go, maybe it's, we've got some money in the piggy bank, the mobility fee piggy bank to maybe do some of the projects that are on our side. So I just didn't know if that was a possibility.
Sure, we're more than happy. I would say that, we have been successful at the county of bringing in over $100 million in the last 5 years from our federal and state partners. And so we are all about partnership, and I think that was a theme throughout. Here's our partner here, here's our partner there. So we're more than happy to sit with your staff and help with that.
Okay. And yeah, some of those partnerships, because like for me, getting anywhere I have to go, it's pretty much the turnpike from where I live. That's the only way I get anywhere. And it's kind of disappointing the way the turnpike put a lot of investment on the Lake County side of things for that widening when I almost feel like Osceola County should have been ahead of it. So I kind of talked with the Turnpike Enterprise about that, but that's one of those that thankfully that's on the list now for widening that, fixing the connection at Kissimmee Park, Canoe Creek, Old Canoe Creek, all of that. So, that can't come fast enough. Some of the connection projects for us that I want to see us kind of focus on, or at least whoever's next in the seat, Creekwood extension of making that connection kind of east-west through. I think we have most of the right-of-way already. That Mutter Road, something that we kind of designed, and then I don't know what happened. Canoe Creek, Kissimmee Park, Old Canoe Creek. Any connection overpass to the turnpike to get from the east side of it to the west side of it is going to be critical. Right now we have one for a big section, and I just drove on the west side of the turnpike down Kissimmee Park Road, and it looks like there's probably in the next 12 months, it feels like 1,000 houses on that side of the road. So just making some of those connections earlier instead of later. Also, so there's just something that's kind of bugged me, and since you're here, KOA, there's right-of-way across Reedy Creek to go to I think it goes to Poinciana Boulevard or Poinciana Boulevard. Is that a connection we can make?
Are you talking about the Reeves Road, or are you talking?
A little south of Reeves Road, but so from the west side, it's KOA, and it dead ends, and then there's like a 200-foot
KOA.
right-of-way.
Oh, yeah.
Across, or
COA.
COA, sorry.
Was it the campground?
Is that something that can, sorry.
Yeah.
That can happen? I just don't know if, environmentally
Yeah.
that can happen, but that I feel bad for that area of Poinciana. It all constricts to one spot and then fans out from there. So, just food for thought. Next thing, and it's kind of my big question, is how is the Sunbridge, how is that funding mechanism working? Because the county said, you said $350 million worth of county funded, but since we can't bond impact fees, I just don't know how that's funded.
Right. So we have forming a CRA
Okay.
in that area. And so what we're doing right now, while we're able to advance some of the projects, is through mobility fees. And then we're in the process of doing a CRA for that, the rest of it.
And does 100% of that ad valorem increase go into transportation, or is it a portion?
I think it's just a portion, just a portion.
Okay,
yeah.
because you kind of said that was going to happen on the south side, so I just want to make sure there's enough money for police, fire, parks, all the other
Exactly, yeah.
things to function without that the full ad valorem.
Right. So when we were putting that deal together with the Sunbridge, we brought in our financial people to do all this financial, not only traffic modeling, but financial modeling to make sure that there would be enough money in that CRA to fund these improvements. So, so that we're in the process of forming that and getting that going.
And then you can bond based on that, essentially?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
Easy.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much for your presentation. It's quite educational. We all need to understand how long this thing takes, how expensive this thing is, but yeah, how important it is. And thank you for all your work in the county. Thank you for certainly what you're investing, but certainly the impact it's having in St. Cloud. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
At this time, we come to our citizens forum. Any person who desires to comment on any item not on this agenda is provided this opportunity to address the city council. Each person is requested to complete a signing form to be provided to the presiding officer prior to or as soon as is practical thereafter the person addresses the council. When you come forward, please state your name and address for the record, and we'll ask that you please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Sandy Seaman? Simone? I think I did that last time.
You got it right. First question before you start the clock. Since there's nobody to do the flipping, can I talk from over there with the microphone? Oh, we have someone, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I didn't know. Hello, Sandy Simone, 5465 Hansom Road, St. Cloud, Florida. Hello again. It's not about Birmingham, Dave. Hello and welcome aboard. So I'm coming in front of you guys again to complain about tractor trailers, out-of-state tractor trailers parking in the roadway. Here's a quick little map that I did so everyone knows where I live. So in the middle, you'll see Rumble Road, which is now going to be Center Lake Road. And here's my problem. Last time I came, if you look up at the upper top right side, you'll see the little red dots I put. So fortunately, you guys had installed 6 no parking signs there, which was great. At the end of Rummel Road, when the county still owned it, they installed, thanks Dave, 2 stop signs right there. What I don't understand is why we didn't get no parking signs all the way around Circley Drive. You see where the arrows are? Next page, please. That's where all the truck drivers pass. According to this little city map, it shows that it's in the city of St. Cloud. That's why I'm here again. Next page, please. So last month, I'm driving along, coming from St. Cloud, and of course, Narcoossee's jammed, so I decide to take the road that I think is a public road, because there's no sign that says it's a private road or anything like that. This is right next to Dollar General on South Narcoossee. So there are 5 out-of-state 18-wheeler trucks parked there. So I said, hey, since I'm going this way, I'm going to videotape it. Next slide, please. That was good and bad, because as I came around the corner blind, this person has their vehicle parked there. Next picture, please. She decides to get out of the car and start videotaping me. I am scared to death, because there's no place I can go. Next page, please. Here's who she is. I don't know who she is. She's videotaping me. I'm guessing she owns one of the out-of-state rigs. Next page, please. I really can't go anywhere. Next page, please. Now she's on my driver's side. I'm sitting there, and this guy gets out of the car, and I can't go anywhere because I can't see behind me because she's walking around my car taking pictures of my tag, and there's 5 18-wheeler tractor thingies parked, so it's blind to me. I'm sitting here kind of petrified because I don't know if she's got a gun or a bat. Next page, please. So I've been emailing. Okay, you can turn it off. I've sent numerous emails, and everybody's saying it's somebody else's problem. And I get that. I'm just asking for help because I'm not calm now. I was calm that day, but somebody else who lives in St. Cloud, it might be a little different than me sitting in my car going, oh my God, what is this woman going to do? Because I am scared. So I'm asking for some help, for some signs, because you put signs on the north end, why can't you put signs on the south end? If you could put my map back up, that would be great, please. The one with all the little arrows. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgeon. Is this something you can certainly follow up with and see if there's something that the city
Yes,
has
sir.
responsibility for what it needs
Chief
to
Gerke,
do.
do you have anything to add? Can you share anything with us?
Good evening, everyone. Doug Gerke, Chief of Police. I have coordinated with Ms. Simone, and I actually copied you on some things that I forwarded over to the Code Enforcement Bureau and everything else. So we are actually running into a little bit of a challenge to determine whether or not it turns out to be this is a private street or a private roadway or a loading roadway into the commercial area. So I think that's where the problem became. So now Code Enforcement has looked at it. I think we've actually looked at it from a streets issue as well. So I'd like to see if anyone else can come up and actually give us a final ruling on how this actually goes. And I told her, and I did assure you, that if it's a law enforcement issue, I have no problem enforcing that on your behalf. So,
Mr. Manzares.
Well, so there are some issues here with regard to the roadway and whether the road is a public access road, even though it appears to be one, and who has jurisdictions of the road. So that's what we're going to try to vet through to address it. We may have to, there may be a piece that the city has control over and jurisdiction of and can do some things from a parking perspective. The other portions of it are, we looked at it earlier, other portions of it are clearly on private property, and we're just going to have to, we may have to take a code enforcement action with regard to those, the trucks and the semis that are being parked there. But as Mr. Sturgeon said, we're going to look into it, and we'll vet it out, and we'll do whatever we can to get it resolved.
Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Councilmember Trace.
Thank you. Well, and it looks like part of it is still owned by Centerlink Properties, so we can probably get them to
Yes,
join on
sir.
board, because
That's
I'm sure
correct.
they don't want anything there.
That's correct.
Are there other areas of the city that we're having this issue that it'd be good to kind of clear it all at once? Because I didn't know there's a huge truck parking issue just across Central Florida of just not having enough spaces on or near interstates, and truckers running out of time and needing to park somewhere.
I'm not aware of any that are like this. From time to time, code enforcement has had issues with semi-trucks being parked in some of the larger parking lots, like at Walmart or Home Depot, when they're not supposed to be parked there. And we've worked with the property owners on those from a code enforcement perspective to deal with that, but I'm not aware of a situation like this.
Okay, just this area?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Adam Wagner.
How you doing? My name's Adam Wagner. I own 10th Street Produce right here, 920 New York Avenue. I put up a petition last night to see some local business owners all around us to sign it, to see if there's any help that you guys can do for us. Obviously, we know they got to get this construction done. It's just this time it's way worse than last time. Nobody has any direction of which way to go. We're not getting communication, from the construction company. You guys are all great. I have great relationships with everybody here in the city. We just need your help. And it's not just me at 10th Street. It's, all the local downtown businesses, every one of us. So I spoke with Bill again today. He said he's going to work on it. So I just wanted you guys to be aware that, I've got almost 800 signatures today. It's not even been 24 hours. So it's affecting all of us, not customers as well. So thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Sturgeon.
you, Mayor. Could I have Mary Emma Bouchelder come up and, we heard you guys a couple of weeks ago talk about the communication, and we've met with Cathcart, and Mary Emma's taken the lead on that. I just want to give you an update on what we're doing, and then I want to talk to you about an idea I had.
Good evening, Council. Mary Emma Batchelder, Communications Director. A couple of weeks ago when this kind of bubbled up and came to our attention, I reached out and began working both with Mr. Sturgeon and Ms. Miller, as well as Kevin Felbinger from Public Works and the Cathcart team to really step up and enhance our communication between the city, the project, and the business owners downtown. I am going to be part of their biweekly project meetings from now on, so that I've got more of a front row seat of what's going on. We put some information out today that's just kind of a here's what's going on now, and kind of went block by block with that. Kevin and I actually walked the project this morning, and I said, basically, explain this engineering to me in common English so I can explain this to the community, what's going on. So we were able to do that. My plan is to do that at least weekly, as well as communicate directly with those business owners. We sent a public information officer out yesterday to go to every business out there that we could reach that was open and we could contact, to gather both cell phone numbers so that we can do emergency blast texts if something happens unexpected on the project, and we can quickly get that information out, as well as email addresses that we can use then to provide weekly updates on that. So we're definitely doing what we can communication-wise. The project team is very open to work with us.
I know I spoke with Mr. Bridle this afternoon. We're working on getting more banner signage for a lot of those businesses down there that would like them, just kind of, hey, we're here, we're open. And we are also talking about doing social media posts as well, which we did also today, which is the project update, but also just kind of highlighting some of the business down there and just draw attention to, you know, what's down there and the fact that they are open during construction, because we understand construction is, you know, it's not pretty. I liken it to remodeling your kitchen and then you're trying to throw a dinner party, and I get it, you know, it's a hot mess, but we are definitely working what we can to keep that communication open and improve it. My cards were distributed to everybody down there yesterday, so they've got my number. I know they've got Mr. Bridle's number as well, so we are here and working on improving that immensely. So, questions
Thanks.
for me?
Thank you. Councilmember Matheny?
Thank you so much. So I learned today that you used to do this for FDOT.
I did, yes.
I learned that today. So I know you definitely have the skill set to try to get this more, where everybody feels more comfortable. And luckily, it's right at our front door, so I mean, I think somebody should walk through the project every day and try to be visible and seen if somebody has a question or concern. But I know we requested this project to have a CEI. I'm assuming we have a CEI on this. Is this something we could reach out to them and just make sure that we're looking around, do we not have a CEI? But, I mean, take a look at the construction, we don't have one?
No.
So do we, well, I know in a council meeting, I asked for someone to be dedicated to it, not as a partial, but to have somebody from staff be dedicated to the construction. But I'm just thinking if somebody could evaluate the construction and make sure we're doing it in a way that makes the most sense and we're not tearing things up unnecessarily or out of order, you know, to try to keep the footprint minimized. And if we don't have a dedicated staff person to watch the construction, I would like to have one.
Isn't that what ZHA is doing, Kevin? Or am I confused? Sorry, Mayor.
No, I'm sorry,
Okay,
Kevin
Kevin, please
Publer,
state your name.
interim public works director. We do have a construction inspector that's there full-time.
Okay, great.
Like I say, when you talk about CEI, we just don't have a consultant to be able to do that
Perfect.
also. But we do have a construction inspector there dedicated full-time for this project.
Yeah, so if maybe just, you know, have them keep in their mind, like, are we doing things in the proper order? You know, don't tear something up 3 weeks before you really need to and things like that to try to keep the, you know, construction area consolidated. I know it's a struggle for the businesses. I mean, you know, everybody who drives downtown, I got a lot of phone calls about it. I'm sure everyone else did about the construction, but I feel that it's worth it. And when we get through breaking the eggs, we're going to have a beautiful downtown, but we could try to keep those things in mind.
Councilmember Askew?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate Adam, and there's some other folks out there calmly coming up here and because that's not sometimes when they hit me on the streets out there, it's not so calm. And I appreciate everybody trying to find a solution, because Bill's seems to be getting calls all the time about it, not only from the merchants down there, but from council members, especially this guy. So I appreciate everybody doing stuff, but yeah, it's. I think we're all open to solutions, and now that I know you're used to be part of FDOT, I think that's a big solution right there. So just stay on it, and I think we're open to ideas, and I just hope it gets done soon. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I could, I've requested a high-level meeting with Cathcart next week. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're going to get that together with them. And one of the ideas I had is we were very successful during COVID with our grant program using the OUC Economic Development Fund. And we have a workshop coming whenever I come back with some ideas, maybe some grants. One of the ideas I had, take some of that fund and maybe offer to pay electric utility in that district for people that are affected. I mean, we have already got the process in place and could put it in place quickly. Again, it'd have to come back before you in August, but if we could do a little discussion before the next workshop, I can come back with some ideas. I was sitting in my office, I thought, well, maybe this is something we can do. Traditionally, this is a slow period for them now, and now we've really crunched them a little bit more. And I agree with Deputy Mayor that it's going to be a beautiful project, but we got to get them over the hump. The other good news is in the next couple of weeks, they'll start putting the roads back together. So that's another thing. Yeah, I'd like to see if you guys have any thoughts on that, if you could like maybe put something together with the finance director. The same process we did in COVID, they would apply and we'd give them a grant for up to a certain amount of money. We use the committee we already have in place to offer those grants.
Councilmember Askew?
I'm good with that. I think it's great, but we did have some grant challenges. I think there's some folks that just don't have, finance people behind them like I have, it just gets tough for them to fill it out.
We would offer assistance with them through economic development manager and sit down with them and see what their needs are. But like I said, it obviously have to have a limit, but I thought one of the things we could do is help with those utilities, and that's exactly what that fund was designed for, is to help out customer retention and economic development fund, so.
Well, I certainly think that's a great idea. We certainly need to continue doing more to communicate and whatever creative things we can do to help with parking and to provide assistance to the businesses. Those are certainly directions we certainly work on. Thank you that you have those to your attention. Would anyone else like to speak during the citizens forum? If not, we're going to move on to our next item, which is the consent agenda. The next portion of tonight's meeting is the consent agenda, which contains items that have been determined to be routine and non-controversial. If anyone in the audience wishes to address a particular item on the consent agenda, now is the opportunity for you to do so. Additionally, if staff or members of the City Council wish to speak on a consent item, they will have the same opportunity. First of all, does anyone on the council have any items that you're wanting to address? If not, Mr. Manzares?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Item F, I think you have in front of you a revised version of this. This is the water and sewer utility agreement with AMH Development, and I think they have that in front of you, a document that's got some yellow highlighting in it. As we transition over to Toho, we have been having them look at certain documents and certain issues related to water and sewer. This is some language that they've asked be included in our water and sewer utility agreements. It's language that they have in their standard agreements with projects as they move forward. So it is language that will be in all future services after the transition. So since we're kind of on the doorstep of the transition, they've asked that this language be included in the agreement, and staff is asking the council, if you approve this item, you approve it with that additional language.
So do we need a motion to
Just to approve
amend
it
this
with-
item?
No, if you make the motion on this item, it would include that additional
All right.
language.
So are there any objections to including this item when this item is considered? Doesn't seem to be. Councilmember Trace.
I would like to pull item Q for question.
Item Q.
Wait.
Anything else?
That's it.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I had Q as well.
All right. Okay. Look at my list here. Let's go to item Q, please. Mr. Trace, would you like to address this first?
Ladies first?
Yes, no, I recognize you first because you brought up first.
Okay, fine.
Go.
I like her questions better than mine usually. So with this, I mean, it seems, I think it was like $350,000. Seems like a lot, and I think it's some of the infrastructure we have to bring over. There's a lift station we have to build. I mean, is the lift station only there and the force main only there to serve the trailer that's there, or is that also going to have enough capacity and enough depth to take in the, I imagine the current building and bathrooms are on a septic system to pull that in as well? So I don't know if anyone had
Mike,
specific.
Cameron? We'll tag team this one, guys. Richard, you want to come up, Mr. Clark, if I could, Mayor?
Okay. Please do so.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Tenaro, Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation. The lift station would be directly for the trailer only at this time, and this is to hook up the water, sewer, electricity, hookup, and driveway entrance in from Jones Road to
Okay.
the trailer.
And is the current building on a septic system, or did that already get connected to a gravity or a central sewer system?
I'm going to let Richard speak.
That building wasn't within the scope of what we were doing, and from a distance standpoint, even if it had a septic system, we'd be too far from it. This started off as a utility connection project. We submitted just strictly to get water and sanitary taken care of. It rolled into a full site development plan, and now you have a site development plan, code required plan that you're building. The lift station is strictly supporting your trailer, and based on the size of it and the requirements of tying in and requiring a 4-inch force main per code, that's why your costs are up as high as they are.
Great, so we get to feel the pain of, I guess, everyone else whenever they do a little project like this, that now it's $350,000 in addition to building a building, so, thank you.
That is true. Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. This is what you get with two engineers. So I had the same concerns, and I said, $348,000, what the heck, does that include the trailer? You know, it doesn't. So then I started looking at, you know, what was in the quote, and I started doing the same thing. Like, why are we doing this? Is this really necessary? This seems, I think my email said elaborate. So I had a lot of conversations about this as well, and you know, at one point I said I think we should pull it and revisit this, because I thought a lot of the items could potentially be done differently. I know it was, for example, there's 5 paved, striped parking spaces at the mobile home, you know, in the middle of a 150-acre passive park. You know, some of the things just seemed a little much for me. So I did talk with various staff, and you know, the ranch is being master planned, so that's another reason why I didn't think we should be expending all this money. I understand that the trailer is already placed, so it does need utilities. So what I was going to suggest was that we do only the bare minimum we need as far as utilities to service the trailer, and there's not a requirement by the fire department to have this paved access. You know, they could drive in, there's an apron already off of Jones Road. They can drive in and just drive through the property and go to the trailer. So that was my recommendation, to pare this down dramatically. And then, you know, there's going to be a master plan done. I don't want to put in all this infrastructure, and then we're like, hey, we want to put the road 10 feet over to the east, and then we're tearing it all up. I asked the same question about the lift station. Was it a master lift station? You know, do we need to do something bigger for the site? It seems like a lot of expense for just the trailer. There are options that we could do instead of a lift station. If we wanted to do something like, if you put a sales trailer out on a site, before the utilities are in, they put a tank, and then the tank is pumped based on the size of the tank and the number of, you know, users. It's pumped with some interval. I don't know if we want to go into that, because I know this trailer's planned on being here for a long time. But if the master plan is going to contemplate a master lift station, then I don't think then we should put this item in. So I think we need to pull this one and maybe give it a little more thought. I was going to move forward with the utilities, but I just am not comfortable with this expenditure either.
Mr. Sturgeon, do you want to speak to this?
So, yes, I agree with what the deputy mayor is saying. The only thing I do want to bring your attention is it is placed, and that is for security out there, and actually the trailer's already been vandalized. So we need to get our law enforcement person out there. So if we could do the bare minimum, and I'll assure that gets done as your direction, and get that person out there for security.
Councilmember Trace.
There wasn't really a breakdown in the bid, but, I mean, can we do a septic tank? Like, is there anything, I mean, code probably says we have to connect to central water and sewer, right? And the parking spots are 4.5 parking spots per house, so there's 5, I'm assuming.
Right, but I think we need to maybe use some kind of, like, understand the place where this is going, and it's not in a subdivision, like, we're not building a house in a subdivision kind of a thing.
Cameron Crandall, Interim Director of Environmental Utilities. As far as the septic tank goes, there's a force main on Jones Road, so we would typically want to tie into that. But if we're talking about something temporary that might open other options, we can look at that with the design engineer.
Yeah, I'd rather just spend the money to put a lift station in for the building that's there that has 3 or 4 bathrooms in it and gets used a heck of a lot more.
So could we support, if we can do a temporary septic process, and then we go back and look and get that master lift station to support the building also? Would you support that?
And can we add cameras if we're already having a?
Yes.
I'd hate for someone to live there, then their house gets vandalized, right? So.
Right.
So we're talking about the bare minimum in utilities, possibly a tank, like they do for the sales center. And then, you know, obviously
Yes, ma'am.
water and power and cameras. I'm fine with that. I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
So your motion is that we do the bare minimum? And trust.
As far as
trust the staff to do that,
utilities,
As far as
right.
utilities are concerned?
And we're not building the driveways and all the other
Correct.
parking spaces and.
Is
Second.
that good enough? Mr.
Yes.
Mazeres, is that?
And I'll keep you
Is that
guys
workable?
fully informed how it's
I don't have to
processing.
figure it out, so.
So we have a motion for amending resolution number 2022-176R. Do I have a second?
Mr.
We have a second motion from Councilmember Matheny, second Councilmember Askew. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on this?
Councilmember Trace,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny,
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye,
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you. Did I have that? No, that's right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to any item on the consent agenda? If not, could I have a discussion or motion by council?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew. I'll give that a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
I would need clarification that includes the changes on item F.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Matheny,
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
That brings us to public hearings. The next portion of tonight's meeting are public hearings. Madam Clerk, will you please read item number 1?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-16, an ordinance of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, adopting the evaluation and appraisal report based on text amendments to the City of St. Cloud Comprehensive Plan in accordance with Section 163.3191 Florida State Statutes, and authorizing transmittal of the said text amendments to the Department of Economic Opportunity for integrity review, providing for filing of the Planning Commission's recommendations, proof of publication, providing for applicability and effect, severability, scrivener's errors, conflict, copies on file, and effective date.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Dagmary Segarra, Planning Manager. I'm here in front of you for another adoption hearing for the evaluation appraisal report. You heard this item on the last City Council meeting for final adoption. We had a error in the advertisement publishment, and in order for us to transmit to the DEO, we need to do this again and do it, just so we meet the law. Nothing has changed on the request. And the amendments that we are proposing are still going to be for the housing element to provide language to update with current statutes, language to the CIP element or CIE element, the transportation element, future land use element. It meets the strategic goal of the city, growth management and public service. And again, we are requesting the adoption of the year. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and motion by council at this time. Do I have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew, second Councilmember Matheny. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings us to items 2, 3, and 4, Madam Clerk.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-30, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, to annex into the City of St. Cloud approximately 0.254 acres identified as St. Cloud Marketplace, located south of East Earl Bronson Memorial Highway, east of Hickory Tree Road, and north of Live Oak Boulevard, in accordance with voluntary annexation provisions of Chapter 171.044 Florida statutes.
Again, Dagmary Segarra, Planning Manager.
She's going to read item number 3, please.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-32. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a future land use designation of commercial to approximately 0.254 acres identified as St. Cloud Marketplace, located south of East Earl Bronson Memorial Highway, east of Hickory Tree Road, north of Live Oak Boulevard, providing for amending of the official future land use map and comprehensive plan, filing of the Planning Commission's recommendations, proof of publication, severability, and effective date.
And item 4.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-33. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, providing the zoning amendment of the zoning map of the Land Development Code of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, specifically changing the zoning designation to approximately 0.254 acres identified as St. Cloud Marketplace from AC Agricultural to county as HB Highway Business City zoning designation with commercial future land use designation adopted by ordinance number 2022-32, generally located south of East Earl Bronson Memorial Highway, east of Hickory Tree Road, north of Live Oak Boulevard, providing for entering of the designation on the official zoning map, filing of the Planning Commission's recommendations, and proof of publication, severability, and effective date.
Thank you.
I'm a little eager to get home.
No problem.
So the request, this is the second and final hearing for an annexation, complan amendment, and zoning amendment to a property located south of East or Arlo Bronson Memorial Highway, east of Hickory Tree Road, and north of Live Oak Boulevard. The property is continuous and reasonably compact, is adjacent to the city limits. The existing county future land use designation is low-density residential. The existing county zoning is agricultural, development, and conservation. The proposed future land use for this property is commercial, and the proposed zoning is highway business. The development is compatible with the surrounding areas, and it has no adverse impacts on the city's facilities. As you can see, this is just a sliver of land that is going to be part of the commercial property to the west, and the intention is to have connectivity into that road for the commercial development. As you can see, this is future land use designation, and the zoning designation of the property. It meets the strategic goal of growth management, and staff recommends approval and of the annexation ordinance 2230, the comprehensive plan amendment 2232, and the zoning map amendment 2233. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I believe the applicant is here to also answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Is the applicant here to speak? Would like to speak to this item? Items? If not, Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. So when this came for the first public hearing, I had expressed my concerns about the access, and I know that the city manager reached out to the county to have them help us because we don't have the expertise that the county has. I don't believe we've gotten that answer back yet, which is okay, because my understanding is even if these move forward, there is still a process that brings it back that we can look at the connection. So just want to say to the applicant to hear me, I don't like the access connections, so don't be surprised when your site plan comes back.
Would anyone else in the audience like to speak to any of these items? If not, we'll have further discussion and a motion by council regarding any of the items. Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of item number 2, ordinance number 2022-30?
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilmember Trace. A second from
Urban.
Second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Colby.
That's right.
A second from Councilmember Colby. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Do we have any discussion or motion on item number 3, ordinance number 2022-32?
Motion to approve ordinance 2022-32.
We got a motion from Councilmember Trace, a second from
Second.
Councilmember Colby. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And then do we have any discussion, or could I entertain a motion for the adoption of ordinance number 2022-33, item number 4?
Motion to approve.
Count, was that?
Second.
I'm trying to get these.
Second, Trace.
Askew. Councilmember Askew has made a motion. Councilmember Trace has made the second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings us to item number 5. Madam Clerk?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-34. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending Article 8, Elections, Section 8.05, Nominations, clarifying the nomination process for the candidate to qualify for the election to a council seat, revising the amount to be paid as a qualifying fee and the election assessment fee, removing the set period for qualifying and providing that the qualifying period for each election shall be set by resolution of the City Council in accordance with the State Election Code, providing an effective date for the amendment, providing for a referendum on the amendment, providing that the title and explanatory statement for the ballot for the amendment referendum, providing for severability and conflict.
Mr. Manzares, would
Thank you,
like to
Mr.
speak to this
Mayor.
item?
This is the first of 2 charter amendment ordinances that are back before you for final reading and adoption, and then if adopted by the council, they would be ballot language placed on the November 8th ballot for, and then if approved by the voters, would be part of your charter. Both of the ones that are presented to you today are essentially cleanup items that the city clerk's office and my office have worked with the supervisor of elections to work the charter to make it more consistent with the state elections code. So this one, the first ordinance is the nomination process for candidates to the city council. This changes the qualifying fee that is paid by candidates who do not get the 25 requisite petition signed, reduces it from 5% to 3% to make it more consistent with those fees that are charged around the state. It also just changes the way the qualifying period is set. Currently, the qualifying period is actually established in your charter. That has ran into some conflicts from a timing perspective with the supervisor of elections, since the time to get the ballots in fluctuates depending on the election date. So this provision would remove the set time period for setting the qualifying period in the charter, and then provide that the qualifying period would be set each election period by resolution of the council, so that we can make it consistent with the supervisor of elections. So those are the 3 items that are before you on it tonight, and again, if it's approved, it'll be on the ballot for November 8th. Mr. Trace did ask the question at the last agenda, if we had the last time this came forward, if we knew what was going to be on the ballot, because these charter amendments can make the ballots longer. We understand that there's 3 Florida constitutional amendments that have already been proposed by the state legislature that will be on the ballot in November. And there's also, we understand, and the county has put on the ballot the half-cent discretionary sales tax that will be on the ballot too for November 8th. So that's the language that'll be on there. So, in addition to these.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew, second from the mayor. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, read item number 6.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-35, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending Article 8, Elections, Section 8.05, Nominations, providing that the ballots for the City Council elections shall be set forth in the State Election Code, and removing the requirement if 2 candidates have the same surname, each candidate's residence address shall be included on the ballot, providing an effective date for the amendment, providing for a referendum on the amendment, providing for the title and explanatory statement of the ballot for the amendment referendum, providing for severability and conflict.
Mr. Manzares.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, as I said earlier, this is the second one of the charter amendments that we're proposing. Again, this came out of discussions with the Supervisor of Elections Office to make the city's charter more consistent with the state elections code. And it seems like a small matter, but it was important to the supervisor of elections, and so we've basically cleaning up the charter language to make it consistent with the state elections code. And again, this would be on the ballot for November 8th, and if approved, it would now be, the new language would be incorporated into the charter.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council.
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second from the mayor. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings us to item number 7, Madam Clerk.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-37, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending Article 3 zoning regulations, Division 19 sign regulations, providing for applicability and effect, severability, scrivener's errors, conflict, copies on file, and effective date.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Joshua DeVries, zoning manager. This ordinance 2022-37 is a land development code amendment to sign regulations, specifically vehicle signage. In an effort to preserve the aesthetic beauty and ambiance of the city, Section 3.19.6 of the Land Development Code is proposed to be revised with this ordinance by establishing regulations and exceptions. Section 3.19.6 prohibited signs and characteristics. Subsection 13A is proposed to be amended as recommended by the Planning Commission and City Council on the first reading to clarify that the exemption related to vehicle signage being parked within the confines of a building or screened from view from a public street has been clarified by has been clarified to be applicable specifically to non-residential properties only. The other exemptions, subsection B and C, for the vehicles with a sign attached that are intended for operation during normal course of business, as long as the vehicles are not routinely parked in a location where it serves as or constitutes additional signage, as well as buses, taxi cabs, and similar vehicles. The proposed amendment also strikes vehicle signs as an exemption for restricted portable or movable signs within Section 319.6A8 of the Land Development Code. This request is consistent with strategic plan goal to create a vibrant, progressive, and diverse community through sustainable planning for all generations. The Development Review Committee recommended approval. The Planning Commission on June 21st recommended denial due to clarification not being provided regarding vehicle signage being required to be within a building or screened from the right-of-way only for non-residential properties. Also, at the first reading, the City Council recommended approval for the condition that staff add clarification that vehicle signage specifically in non-residential properties would be required to be in a building or screened from the right-of-way. Staff has made the revisions and clarification by adding the word non-residential to the proposed Land Development Code, Section 3.19.613A. With this revision, staff recommends approval of Ordinance 22-37 and is available for questions.
Thank you. We'll hear from anyone from the audience. Sandy Simone.
Hello, Sandy Simone, 5465 Hanson Road, St. Cloud. I just wanted to get more clarification. I was on the website earlier today, and I couldn't find out specifically what the signage was about, so Josh did a great job at explaining it. So my question is this: does the Narcoossee overlay still override any signage that the city of St. Cloud now does? Because I think there's very little signage in the overlay, but I thought I'd ask since I was here. Thank you.
Mr. Mazier?
I don't think this is inconsistent with the overlay, and if that's the case, it wouldn't override it.
Yes, it would be. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council.
Motion to approve.
We have a question from Councilmember Trace first, if you'd hold your motion. Councilmember Trace?
And I just looked this up, so sorry I didn't ask this question earlier. The exemption under 13C, which has an exemption of vehicles authorized under Land Development Code Section 3.20.8, is, commercial vehicles over 1.5 tons. Does that just kind of welcome the individuals doing this to buy bigger vehicles to then have another bigger vehicle on the side of as essentially signage advertising?
Josh, can you answer that? Mr. Mazares?
Are you asking the hypothetical question if this is going to motivate people to buy bigger vehicles?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can answer
To
that.
accomplish the same thing that they're doing with a small vehicle, like a mini car, and then now it'll be a 1.5 ton vehicle.
I get that, but I think that provisional exemption is only directed to what's referred to as common carrier vehicles. So if someone wants to buy a big, huge bus or vehicle like that and try to park it somewhere, then that exemption may apply if it's in the right location. But I don't think they can buy a 25-foot party bus and park it in their front yard.
They will. We'll be back in 6
Or
months.
for
Go back to council
parties.
again.
I'll second Deputy Mayor Matheny's motion.
Do you have it?
Okay.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny for the adoption of item number 7. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trace.
Second from Councilmember Trace. I think he beat you, Colby. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Trace,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Clerk, could you read item number 8?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-41, an ordinance of the City Council of City of St. Cloud, Florida, extending the temporary moratorium imposed by ordinance 2022-19 for an additional 90 days, finding that the provisions contained in section 3, subsection B of the ordinance of 2022-19 have been met, and the extension is necessary in the best interest of the City of St. Cloud, providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date.
Good evening again. Joshua DeVries, zoning manager. All right. This ordinance, 2022-41, is request for an extension to the temporary moratorium for communication towers. On February 24th, the City Council approved ordinance 2022-19 imposing an initial 90-day moratorium of communication tower applications. In order to allow staff to complete further research and provide updated standards for future applications, staff is requesting approval of an extension to this moratorium for 90 days. Staff recommends and requests approval of ordinance 2022-41, a 90-day extension of the temporary moratorium of communication towers. Staff is available for any questions.
At this time, we'll receive any public comments. Sandy Simone?
Hello, Sandy Simone, 5465 Hanson Road, St. Cloud. So I was here for that other meeting about the cell towers, and I think I'm still confused. I didn't get a real clear understanding of what the issue is, why we need a moratorium. I mean, is it because Osceola County has flagpoles? Yay, I'm all for that. But I'm still not able to find anything on the website that says, like, what's going on with the cell towers. So I figured, hey, I'm here, why not ask? Thanks.
Thank you, Joshua. Can you enlighten us?
So staff is working on communication towers regulations, an update to the Land Development Code, and this moratorium is being requested to be able to provide staff additional time to make sure we are able to bring forward regulations that enhance
Could you
the-
speak a little bit louder, please?
Yeah. Allow us to bring forward regulations to the commission that would meet the intent of why we're creating the regulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Trying to get our regulations together.
Right.
Would
Mayor-
anyone else in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion motion by council.
Mayor, I was just
Mr.
going to, if I just could,
Manzares.
just add follow-up to Josh's comment. Essentially what happened is when we were looking at certain issues related to communication towers, it was determined that the city's code is a little antiquated, needed to be updated and revised. So instead of, we're essentially asking for the time to make sure we do it right this time. Technology has changed, as everybody's aware. The need for communication and cell towers has expanded greatly from when the city's code was originally adopted. So that's really the purpose of what we're doing.
Thank you. Councilmember Trace.
Okay, and if we can be quick with figuring this out because as anyone that was on the agenda review with me, I have 0 cell service as I was driving through parts of the city. So, so, so with that, if there's no other comments, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Trace, a second Councilmember Matheny. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings us to item number 9, Madam Clerk.
Final public hearing for resolution number 2022-070R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, adopting the fiscal year 2022 annual action plan for the Community Development Block Grant Program, providing for conflict and providing for an effective date.
Good evening, Wendy Colazzo, Finance Director. Sorry, I'm flipping through pages a little bit late here. This is the final public hearing for resolution number 2022-07R. This is the prior year 2022 annual action plan. We had opened up comments. The consolidated plan process for this 2022 is as such. The Community Development Block Grant, which I'll refer to as following as the CDBG after this, is of course administered through HUD, which is the Housing and Urban Development. We report every activity and every expenditure on the IDIS system, and this is the information system that is online. The comprehensive plan, or what you see is the CON plan and annual action plan. This helps grantees determine our organization's fund in the coming years. In layman's term, the city gets to determine what activities, based on needs assessments and with the opinions of the community, where the fund should be injected. The CON plan, or the comprehensive plan, is 5 years in length, as you well know, and describes the community needs, its resources, the priorities, and any proposed activities to be undertaken through the funding. The annual action plan, the AAP, is submitted to HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, every year during the 5-year CON plan cycle. Again, the annual action plan is just the specific plan uses for the HUD program, as well as any other program requirements. We have to outline them and lay them out. In the 2022 or for prior year allocation for the CDBG, we were allocated $357,697 in totality. The priority needs that were identified: community development strategy. There was a need to improve the community in the sense of facilities, infrastructure, public service, and the quality of life of City Hall, of the City of St. Cloud. The housing strategy, there was a need there that was identified for additional, affordable, decent, safe, sanitary housing for home buyers, homeowners, and home renters. Finally, a third priority, economic development. This strategy was in need to increase employment, self-sufficiency, educational and technical training for the residents of the City of St. Cloud. How we're going to achieve this with the 2022 funding is with those specific goals, those identified here in community facilities and infrastructure under CD 1 and 2. These are outcomes that we expect to target low, moderate income areas with benefit of over 7,660 people in that category. In the CD3 goal, public services, we have 150 identified LMI persons in the youth category. HS-4, housing rehab, code enforcement, 100 low, moderate to income households were identified, and in ED2 development, 50 jobs have been identified as outcomes that could be created and or retained. The proposed projects that are outlined and allocated in totality to total down to the $357,697 in brief are the administration costs of $70,000 that are standard. Public facilities and infrastructure in that category, $157,696. Public services, $30,000. $30,000 in housing programs, and $70,000 in economic development. Again, the total $357,697 allocated as such. The citizen participation, the citizens have had an opportunity to participate in the development of this plan. The public comment period was open May 26th through June 26 of 2022. This, of course, is the second public hearing to close down the comment period on July 14, 2022 at this 6:30 p.m. City Hall meeting. The process of the draft AAP was available to be viewed in the Community Development Department office located at the site that you see there, https://stcloudfl.gov/5 Community Development. Written comments could have been made, and we have not been identified as having received any, but would have been made to the Grants Administrator at the Community Development Department or through email at eburnett@stcloud.org. The prior year 2022 AAP will be submitted to HUD's IDIS, Integrated Disbursement Information System, on or before August 16, 2022, as is policy and procedure. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2022-070R and are requesting action from Council as such for the approval of 2022-070R. Any questions, I would be more than happy to answer for you.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and/or motion by council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew, second Councilmember Matheny. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read item number 10.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2022-18, an ordinance of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, establishing the proposed property known as Center Lake Ranch West and further described herein, and recognizing the Center Lake Ranch West Community Development District created and chartered by Uniform General Law, the Uniform Community Development District Act of Florida, Chapter 190, Florida Statutes, 2021 and hereafter. Acknowledging the Uniform District Charter expressed in Chapter 190, Florida Statutes, and confirmed by Section 189.031, subsection 3, Florida Statutes, establishing the district on the property proposed in this petition, and designating the initial members of the District Board of Supervisors, and designating the proposed land area within which the district may manage and finance its basic infrastructure system, facilities, services, improvements, and projects providing for severability and effective date.
Good evening, Council Member, Mayor Blackwell. My name is Dagmar Segarra, Planning Manager. The case in front of you is the Center Lake Ranch West Community Development District. The property is approximately 385 acres. It's located south of Starline Drive, north of Agnew Road, and south of Narcoossee Road. This is part of the statute opportunities that allows for this type of communities of CDDs, Community Development Districts, and on Chapter 190 of our Florida statute, the applicant has petitioned to establish a CDD on the Center Lake Ranch mixed-use development. The purpose of the CDE is to plan, finance, acquire, and construct and maintain at least some of the following: sanitary facilities, reuse water, electrical service, on-site public roadway improvements, and other infrastructures. Some of the additional enhancements that the applicant is proposing in this request is the amenitization and enhancement of public park and recreational areas, enhancement of a multi-purpose trail, and perimeter and entry landscape and buffer enhancements. These are enhancements above and beyond of what the code requirement. It meets the strategic goal of growth management and infrastructure. DRC staff reviewed the request and recommend approval of ordinance 2022-18. The applicant is here and has a presentation for tonight for you, and I'll be able to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. We'll recognize the applicant at this time.
Good evening. My name is Jarrett Earlywine. I'm with KE Law Group here on behalf of the applicant. We also have with us Mark Stelly from Poulos and Bennett and Susan Kane from Taylor Morrison. And Dagmar, how do I control the presentation?
Thank
Oh, there we go, perfect. All right, great, thank you. So thank you all so much for considering this tonight. Again, Jared Earlywine with KE Law Group. I know you all are somewhat familiar with community development districts, having just reviewed Roan Bridge not too long ago. But what I thought I'd do is talk a little bit about the project, talk about some of the benefits of the community development district and what it brings for the city and its and the residents of the district, and then see if y'all had any questions. So just to get us started, and I think Dag Marie already covered a lot of this in sort of 50,000-foot level, and so it's obviously off Starline Drive, 386 acres, planned for about 1,100 homes. All of this has already been approved from a development approval standpoint. But you would note, too, that there's about $45 million of improvements that are required to bring this project to bear. It includes the utilities, reclaim, water, sewer, roads, that main boulevard down through the thoroughfare there, a huge stormwater system, and all the different enhancements that Dag Marie mentioned there. So there's a 10-acre park with pavilions, and there's an observation deck. There's a 10-foot wide use path that goes along the main boulevard. There's also walking trails around the community. All of those are above and beyond code requirement. In fact, the project itself has over 30% open space. It's in excess of the open space requirements. It also has enhanced transportation connectivity with the adjacent school site. And I think we mentioned a lot of the main improvements that we'd finance. You see our enhancements chart. I think you'll have that in your materials, and it kind of highlights where those enhancements are and what the CDD would be doing. We would actually draw water off of the stormwater ponds to irrigate the common areas, which would be sort of a substitute for the reclaim. Even though we're putting reclaim pipes in, we understand that reclaim may or may not be available, and so we've put that feature in. Again, the CDD would help finance all of that as well. From our perspective, there's really two main benefits from community development districts. One is, it's essentially an alternative to having a homeowners association run the community, and it functions a lot like an HOA, but it can just do a lot more things. So, and you probably know this from Roan Bridge, but just to describe it, obviously we come to you all, get the CDD established. It's an independent unit of government, so you're not responsible for it any more than you would be from a homeowners association. Once it's up and running, it's controlled in the early years by the developer, just like an HOA. The CDD would go out and issue long-term debt. It would use the 30-year debt money to build the stormwater ponds, and utilities, and all the stuff I just talked about. And then to secure the repayment of the debt, it would put a special assessment on the property so that the landowners within that community would pay for the development. So growth would essentially pay for itself. And then once the infrastructure is installed, it operates just like a normal HOA and does the maintenance. But the big benefits from the CDD are sort of two buckets. There's financial benefits and there's maintenance benefits. From a financial standpoint, it's a lot superior to the traditional process. It can go out and issue tax-exempt bonds. That money is cheaper. It's the same type of bonds that the city and counties issue for their projects. So the money costs less. You can spread it over time. And what that means is that there's more money to put into the project and bring out those enhancements and also keep the housing costs competitive. So it's good on the front end for the project and bring that kind of higher quality project that you want to see in your city. And then long term, once the residents take over that board, which occurs earlier than it would for an HOA, they take over and they need to go back and fix up their stormwater ponds or other infrastructure, fix up their parks. They can go out and issue another tax-exempt bond at a later point, finance it using those good rates, and save themselves some money again. So financially, it makes a lot of sense, brings more money to the project for everybody. Secondarily, it's a great, I'm getting ahead of myself here a little bit. It's a great operations and maintenance entity as well, much superior to a homeowners association. One of the key benefits to a CDD is that it's able to collect its assessments on the tax roll, which an HOA can't do. And we saw after the Great Recession, a lot of HOAs would actually come to the cities and counties and ask for help taking care of their roads and whatnot. In fact, I established a CDD in Marion County last year, and the item that was right in front of mine was an HOA coming because they couldn't take care of the roads, and they wanted an MSBU, a special taxing district, put in place to take care of the roads because they couldn't do it. So having that CDD there to be able to take care of things and make sure that those assets are going to be taken care of for a long term through their tax roll collection process is a huge benefit. It's also a much more transparent entity. They're subject to sunshine laws, public records laws, ethics laws, just like you all are, city council members. They have greater access to emergency funding through FEMA funding and statewide mutual aid programs. There was a CDD down in Southwest Florida that came to me and said, hey, we've got a CD, we've got an HOA, we're a small project, only have 190 units, and they were thinking about maybe dissolving. They'd been around for 30-something years. And all the arguments I'm making to you about why the CD is great, the residents in the audience actually made to me at the meeting and to the board and said, we don't want you to dissolve the CD. Sure enough, next year, the Hurricane Irma came through, tore up all their stormwater ponds, and they got a bunch of FEMA funding because it was a CDD. And because of that, those residents love their CDD, and they still have it to this day. There's professional staff on hand. It's more transparent. Ultimately, it leads to higher property values and maintains those property values over time. It's just a more robust entity when it comes to operating and maintaining infrastructure. The same slide, essentially the same points there. The other benefit that I haven't mentioned yet is there is some benefit in a context of a default scenario. Some people say, well, what happens to a CD if there's a recession or a slowdown? The truth is, if you have a recession, it can obviously affect any project, whether it's got a CD or not. The advantage of having the CD there is once it goes out and issues tax-exempt bonds, there's bond money. Now, of course, some of that bond money is going to get spent on the front end because it's construction money, but you may have some construction money left if there's a slowdown. And certainly there's part of the bond money is held back. It's called a reserve account, and that money can be used during a recession in case of a slowdown or a default to finish out a phase. It can be used to keep your landscaping watered, your amenity center running, pay for foreclosure costs, and get that project back into productive use. And during the Great Recession, that's exactly what happened. And a lot of those CDDs, and I'm not saying it's a perfect structure, but compared to the HOA structure with no money there, it's a better structure in a default scenario with the CD bond in place. So all that said, I think there's, from the city's perspective, there's really no downside. It's a lot like just having a homeowner association operate and maintain it. It can just do more things. It doesn't take away any of the city's powers. You all still have all your same zoning approval, permitting powers, all the rest of it, police powers. You all keep all that. The city simply acts as a public developer of the public infrastructure, still needs to come to you for all the permits and the rest of it, and it operates like an operations and maintenance entity, just like a homeowner association. The statutes make it clear that no debt of the CD can be a debt of the city, and so it really is independent from y'all. And of course, it's not on y'all's books or anything like that, like a community redevelopment agency or CRA or something along those lines. So, in terms of transparency, there's over 800 CDs in Florida. Special districts are used widely around the country, Texas and California, Tennessee, Virginia. I mean, they're all over the country. Florida. Obviously has quite a few CDs, over 800 in Florida, so there's a lot of knowledge about CDs. The legislature upgraded the disclosure requirements about 5 or so years ago, so there's public websites and meeting notices, and when we levy an assessment, there's mailed and published notice, and all these recordable documents. So there's a lot of disclosure about the CDs. Ultimately, there's 6 criteria that we need to establish today. You see what they are up there. Are the petition statements true and correct? Is the CD consistent with the comp plan? Is it going to be functional in a related community? Are the facilities compatible with existing services? Is it amenable to special district government? Is the best alternative? And I think the answers to all those are pretty clearly yes, especially for a project like this when you've got inflation, construction costs are up 40%, and this is a big project with a lot of heavy infrastructure, $45 million. It's a perfect project for a CD. So with that said, we're happy to answer any questions, and again, really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. If you'll stand by. Sandy Simone.
Hello, last time I'm coming up. Sandy Simone, 5465 Handsome Road, St. Cloud, Florida, 34771. You don't know, but everybody else knows I live in the middle of this. So I have lots of questions. Mainly, my neighbors and I didn't know about the CDD, so it may or may not affect us. So my main question is, this doesn't change the Narcousie overlay that we worked on for 4 years. When Center Lake has done all their zoning and all that other stuff, the Narcousie overlay to this point has been instilled. I'm just here to get on public record to make sure that even if it changes to a CDD, which is above my pay grade, that the Narcousie overlay does not change. Because as I said, I live in the middle of this on Handsome Road, And we already have 12 Oaks that's now becoming a freeway, the north-south connector to offset the traffic on Narcousie. So that's my main question. And I'm just kind of wondering, do the residents surrounding this CDD not get notified? I know it's not a zoning change, so it's an ordinance. So if you guys could kind of explain that to me, because I can promise you, had Starline Ranch and the Enclave knew that this was coming up tonight, they would have been here. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you. Before we address any of those issues, would anyone else like to speak to this item? Would the applicant like to address any of those questions that were raised?
Yeah, just briefly, Jarrett Earlywine again with KE Law Group. The development approvals for the project were essentially advertised, went through the same process that any other project would have done. Those have already been done and completed at this point, and there would have been notice given at that time. But that's a separate process from what we're just doing today. Obviously, today we're just approving the CDD, which is essentially a financing mechanism and operation and maintenance entity. So.
Mr. Manzares.
And I'm just going to confirm that the item you're looking at tonight is not changing any of the development approvals or entitlements to the property. They're the same that they were back in 2019 when they were approved for the entire Center Lake project. Also, there are additional advertising requirements that are required for this particular project. And it's four.
Yeah, and there's 4 weeks of notice for this one as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that's additional notice to the notice that occurred when the development applications were being considered.
Thank you. Seeing I have no other requests to speak, we'll have discussion and motion by Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. So if you watched any of the Roan Bridge CDD discussion, you know where I'm going to come at this, and hopefully it was presented to you from my agenda review, is that it's the same argument that Roan Bridge made. Is they're saying $45 million in public infrastructure, but what I specifically asked is tell me what you're doing above and beyond, because a lot of this infrastructure is what you have to do to build this development and sell these homes. And so for me, sitting up here, I feel like this is a very powerful tool that we're giving a developer, and that, you know, that's going to be a burden for the people who buy these homes. I understand they're going to notify the homeowners and all that, but I mean, I'm sure we've all heard it where people didn't realize until their tax bill came that they had a CDD. And so, you know, they buy their house, they make whatever financial decisions that they make. Sometimes there's even an HOA in addition to the CDD, but you know, they've got a $1,500 bill on their tax bill in addition to everything else that they pay. So, I mean, this is a first reading, I'll move it forward, but I'm gonna want, I mean, there's some generalities in here, but I would want more specifics and kind of a guarantee of what's going to be done and a dollar amount about what's gonna be done, and break out like what you're doing versus what you just have to do for your development. That's my position on this item.
Thank you. Councilmember Matheny.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to speak at this point or not.
I'm giving you the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the response to that is, you know, there's, I appreciate what you're saying, and we do, you know, I know Osceola County views that this way as well. I would tell you that in terms of the enhancements, there's a lot of enhancements above and beyond code, and there is a guarantee that in the petitioner's agreement that we've I think put in your materials. There's a chart as well that I think you have with kind of a map showing what those enhancements are. And those are substantial and are expensive. It includes the trail that's going down not the trail, but the pathway that's going down the middle of the project. It includes the trail system, includes the 10-acre park, the pavilions, the dog park. All of that stuff is extra above and beyond, and it's far beyond, I think, what the Roan Bridge petitioner offered. Beyond that, too, though, bear in mind, too, you know, when you're negotiating a development approval, and I don't know why cities and counties do this, but a lot of cities and counties say, come forth with your development plan, and then we'll consider your CDD after the fact. And really, and there's no statutory requirement for that, but the truth is you should know whether you're getting the CDD up front so you know what you can promise. But when we were negotiating the development approvals, which were just approved a month or two ago, and we've had this petition in for many months, we negotiated with the assumption that we would get the CDD because we need it for all the different things that we promised. You know, there's reclaim lines that are going in, there are heavy infrastructure. We've also got our irrigation set up basically to draw off the ponds because we don't know that we're going to get the irrigation. There's a school site that's being offered. There's fire. All of that stuff, even the private amenities out there are budgeted based on the CDD because without the CDD, you don't have those dollars available. So it's baked into the cake, so to speak. And then even above and beyond that are these other enhancements that are above and beyond code. But what code is, when you're negotiating the PD and the approvals, is a moving target as well. So a lot of what you're getting as part of the approvals assumes the CDD in place, and without it, you'd have a much different project. So hopefully that helps to answer. But if you do have specific things you're looking for or want to talk further, we'd obviously be happy to talk to you. So.
Do we have any other questions from council? Could I entertain a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew. Do I have a second? I'll make a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye for the first reading.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Clerk, will you please read items 11 and 12?
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2022-38. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida to annex into the City of St. Cloud approximately 110.77 acres identified as Live Oak Estates Phase 4 and 5, located approximately 550 feet south of U.S. Highway 192 and 1,800 feet east of the intersection of U.S. Highway 192 and Narcousie Road, in accordance with the voluntary annexation provisions of Chapter 171.044 Florida statutes. First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2022-39, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a future land use designation of low-density residential to approximately 110.77 acres identified as Live Oak Estates, Phase 4 and 5, located approximately 550 feet south of U.S. Highway 192 and 1,800 feet east of the intersection of U.S. Highway 192 and Narcousie Road, for providing for the amending of the official future land use map of the comprehensive plan, filing of the Planning Commission's recommendations, proof and publication, availability and effect, severability, copies on file, and effective date.
Good evening again. Dagmary Segarra, Planning Manager. The two items in front of you this evening is for the annexation and the comprehensive plan amendment of a property located south of East Arlo Branson Memorial Highway and east of Hickory Tree Road. The total acreage is approximately 110 acres. The property is contiguous and reasonably compact and is adjacent to the city limits. The existing county future land use designation is low-density residential and medium-density residential, and the existing county zoning is AC, agricultural development and conservation. The proposed future land use is LDR, and the development is compatible with the surrounding areas. There is no adverse impacts on city facilities. The future land use map demonstrates the location. As you can see, is the LDR and MDR from the county, and it is compatible with the surrounding properties. And this is the zoning, demonstrate that it's agricultural. The request is gonna be forward in the next item for the zoning. It meets the strategic goals of growth management. Staff review this request and recommends approval. The Planning Commission also on June 21st recommended approval, and it is requested of the City Council to approve Ordinance 2022-38 for the annexation and Ordinance 2022-39 for the comprehensive plan amendment. I'll be glad to, the applicant is here, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Would the applicant like to speak to these items?
Hi, good evening. My name is Brock Altafer. I'm with Osceola Engineering, 1003 Florida Avenue, St. Cloud. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to item 11 or 12? If not, we'll entertain discussion and or motion from council. Councilmember Urban.
Thank you. This seems to be a kind of a problem area as far as traffic in the city, where people have to make a lot of U-turns to get back into town. So have there been any considerations on traffic analysis or interconnectivity in this area?
The Land Development Code requires that type of analysis during the construction subdivision plan. There is some preliminary analysis during the zoning process, and they were discussed during the next item, the CMA, I should say PUD. But the improvements to 192 and those analyses, they will be requested at the time of the subdivision construction plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Will there be any other discussion by council? Could I entertain a motion regarding item number 11, ordinance number 2022-38?
Motion approved.
We have a motion from Councilmember Trace. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Askew. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Trace,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny,
Aye.
Councilmember Urban,
Aye.
Councilmember Askew,
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Could I entertain a motion regarding item number 12, ordinance number 2022-39?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Trace. Madam Clerk.
Deputy Mayor Matheny,
Aye.
Councilmember Urban,
Aye.
Councilmember Askew,
Aye.
Councilmember Trace,
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Clerk, will you please read item number 13 into the record?
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2022-40, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a zoning district of PUD, planned unit development compatible with low-density residential, future land use designation change adopted by ordinance number 2022-39 for approximately 110.77 acres identified as Live Oak Estates, Phase 4 and 5, located approximately 500 feet south of U.S. Highway 192 and 1,800 feet east of the intersection of U.S. Highway 192 and Narcousie Road, providing for entering the designation of the official zoning map, finding the planning, providing the approval of the preliminary final master plan, filing of the Planning Commission's recommendations, proof of publication, severability, and effective date.
Good evening again, Dagmary Segarra, Planning Manager. So this is the companion zoning request for the previous two items. The same acreage, 110 approximately, in the same location. The proposed future land use designation is low-density residential, which you just got approved, and the current zoning is, now it is, well, now we're talking about the zoning, sorry. The current zoning is agricultural development and conservation by the county, and the proposed zoning is residential PUD. The development is compatible with the surrounding area, and the facilities are not adverse to impact on city utilities. It meets the strategic goal of growth management. This is a snapshot of the entire subdivision. The description of the subdivision, so it's a single-phase development, and it's an extension to the fourth phase of the existing Live Oak Estates subdivision that is to the east. It is compatible as conditioned with the existing Live Oak Estates on phases 1, 2, and 3. Lots are as small as 3,740 square feet and as narrow as 34 feet. Homes are 1 and 2 story high with floor areas between 1,800 and 3,500 square feet. Existing amenities will be available to residents in the new development, and it will be incorporated into the Live Oak Estates Homeowners Association. The details on the zoning is 110.77 acres, and it's a total of 264 units. The gross density is 3.65 acres, and the net density is 27.85. The growth, it meets the standards of the Land Development Code of less than 4 dwelling units per acre for the low-density residential. In regards to the open space, it means, the applicant is providing a total of 24.9% out of the required 20%. In order for this acreage to count, all of the areas, all of the open space areas will need to be amenitized. Staff is recommending some changes into the plan to meet with this requirement, such as sidewalks to connect to the right-of-way. A number of open space tracks with amenity and paved pedestrian access into the track, along with potential open space tracks are provided. In specific, track 22 and 25 will need to be revised to include this requires access and amenities. And we are requesting that tracks 3, 35, 37, and 38 will be removed from the open space tracks and be labeled as landscape buffer. The reason is because they're really not gonna be function as what open space really is meant to function as, which is a public open space, open area. The multi-purpose playfield that they're providing in track 24, staff is recommended that they need to provide amenities such as benches or something. They want to use it as a multi-purpose like soccer kind of thing. We are requesting that they need to do something more than what they're not providing. They require tree mitigation. They are complying with the requirements of the Land Development Code. They are they're replacing trees within the right-of-way and open space tracks, provide with a total of 2,704 calipers inches in tree. We are requesting that the applicant requested to provide the total tree preservation to be provided on the subdivision construction plan. Staff do not agree with this recommendation. Our recommendation is that they will need to provide this information at the preliminary subdivision plan. DRC staff review this request and recommends approval as condition. The Planning Commission recommendation approve this request, also conditioned by staff, and it is staff staff recommends approval as conditioned by staff from City Council. I'll be glad to answer any questions. The applicant is here if you have any questions.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Hello, Brock Altafer, Osceola Engineering, 1003 Florida Avenue, St. Cloud. We are largely in agreement with staff's recommendations. I did want to address the special condition number 2, the tree preservation being provided at the PSP. At the PSP plan, we don't get into site grading at all, and the survivability of trees when you develop a site is largely dependent upon the fill you place around it. If we have to place 4 or 5 feet of fill around a tree, it's not likely to survive. So that level of detail we get to at the final construction plans. So we would like to request that we be able to provide tree preservation at the final construction plans.
Thank you. This time we'll receive public comment. Ryan Anthony.
Hello, Ryan Anthony, 2160 Borough Boulevard. Thank you for this opportunity to address the council, Mayor. And I'm here on behalf of a group to reduce redundancy of the same concern or interest. Residents, we live in phase 1 of the same development that's adjacent to this proposed development. And our only concern and thought were about preserving some trees if at all possible. There are a lot of, I would say, I'm not an arborist, but maybe 50 to 100-year-old trees on that property, and we'd love to see some of those preserved just for the sake of the beauty and the habitat they provide for various wildlife and such. You take one of those trees down and replace it with 50 trees that are this big around, and it just doesn't replace that. So we'd like to see, you know, as we can see maybe is happening already, a collaborative effort between the Planning Commission and the developer to preserve some of those trees, if at all possible. And so that's our main concern. That's why I'm here, and why I'm here on behalf of a few residents in the adjacent communities. So thank you for your time and consideration, and also their efforts in their negotiations. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony.
Thank you.
Would anyone else in the audience like to speak to this item? Would the applicant like to speak to those concerns?
Hi, Brock Altafer, Osceola Engineering. I think the trees that he's speaking of are not only an amenity to the existing residents, but if we're able to save them, they'll definitely be a benefit to the future residents as well. So we will work as much as we can to save the trees, but it's really a function of the grading when it comes down to it.
All right. Councilmember Matheny.
Mr. Anthony, you are preaching to me because I bring this up all the time about the trees, and I don't like all the trees being wiped out, and you save like 3 trees on the edge, great, you know, you had all these trees. I argue this all the time. So the last time I was arguing it, my understanding was we were supposed to get an updated tree plan. Do we, I mean, I know it might not be in place for this, but do we have that? What's the update on that? Because my concern was the same as you take these big trees down and you put a whole bunch of little trees. It's just not the same, and nothing makes a community feel like, I don't know, you just get that feeling when you drive into a neighborhood and it's got these old established trees. I mean, that's what makes a community to me. So where are we at with that?
Absolutely, yes. Staff, I believe the city manager's office, they acquired the services of a consultant to go over the landscape code. Staff, we provided our feedback from their analysis about a week ago. So they are finalizing their findings and their analysis. There's some areas that we're going to have to work on because they're not either clear in regards to interpretation or implementation, and other areas that we believe that that should be increased in regards to the requirements. But we believe that there are also some areas that would allow some flexibility when it's needed. So we are. I believe that Abismael is the project manager for that endeavor, and we will have something completed by August, I believe, by next month.
It'll be coming to the council in August?
So what is going to be completed is the analysis and the recommendations from the consultants. And then from there, we're going to be working to create a new language. And then we would start having the workshops with the city council to get through the approval of a new land mitigation plan.
Okay. Well, from my perspective, it can't happen fast enough because, you know, these come in and we see mass grading plans and it makes my stomach turn with all the trees leaving. But I also understand the challenge of engineering is they can't do, you know, things have an order that things have to happen. So if we get the commitment from the engineer that he's willing to work and try to preserve the trees, I think that's the best we can do at the time, and then we'll try to push forward to get this new language as quick as possible.
And if I may, another comment, what we found too is that the code the preservation code is a pretty good code. I think what was lacking is a little bit more training in the area of implementation. Once we clarify some areas, and then it is very clear from everyone how it's going to be interpreted and how it's going to be implemented, it's going to be good.
Great.
Mr. Manzares.
I'm just going to remind the council that ultimately you will see a final master plan on this project that will address all the issues, and at that point, you will actually, under your code, you're entitled to see the makeup of the vegetation and the trees and the landscaping and all that in whatever sufficient form you need to make the right decision to approve the plan. So that's the beauty of the PUD process as opposed to the straight zoning.
Yeah, and also that's the reason that we're requesting the mitigation plan with the preliminary subdivision plan, because we know that gets approved by city council, and you will have the opportunity of how the final product is going to look like, or could look like.
Thank you. Councilmember Trace.
Thank you. Couple questions and comments about the actual PUD development standards. So we typically have, like in our water and wastewater service agreement, a minimum of 1,500 square feet of conditioned space, but in the PUD, that's 1,200. What was the minimum square footage in phases 1, 2, and 3?
Oh, on the previous, the square footage for those, I got everything except that. I got the setbacks, I got the lot width, but I didn't get
Okay.
that one. But I believe that they're comparable.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those, we
Yeah.
should be consistent if we wanted 1,500 square feet areas outside of the city. This technically was outside of the city and, until 15 minutes
The
ago.
applicant is here, he might know the answer.
Okay, but it's just one of those of, I think it probably should be 1,500 square feet. I don't think it was an issue because the part of the description said it was 1,800 square foot minimum, like
Your
minimum.
maximum.
There's a provision for side yard setbacks for side-loaded garages, and it shows it's as 20 feet when, the issue we have front-load garage setbacks of 25 feet for the issue of, long vehicles, SUVs, trucks, kind of blocking the sidewalk. Shouldn't we have the same standard on a side-loaded side entry garage would be blocking the sidewalk is the same?
So I don't
Issue?
believe that that there is any side-loaded product with this request,
But if the zoning is approved, then it would be allowed.
but it's a PUD, and it's not part of the types of housing.
Okay, then I'd like to just have that struck then.
Oh, okay, yes.
Either struck or
yes.
make it 25
Okay.
feet, like, I don't.
Yeah,
I just don't think we should have differing standards when you turn the corner. It's still, a 25-foot-long vehicle would still block the sidewalk. 34-foot lot, 34-foot minimum lot frontage. I imagine that is for an alley-loaded house or alley garage, rear-loaded garage house.
that's correct.
It doesn't specify that in here. So technically, someone could build a 34-foot wide lot with a front-load garage. So I'd like that at least revised and specified as such. And then what would the minimum lot width be for a front-loaded house, garage? If you could, well, sorry, you're taking notes. I'll give you a minute.
Okay, sorry.
If you could go back to the site plan, or the preliminary, whatever. So there's a lot of areas that have, it looks like the dark reddish product. It looks like a lot of those don't have roads in front of them. They have alleyways, which I imagine there aren't parking spots in the alleyways. So any guest parking would be on the roads. I just want to make sure, especially towards that southern portion, that there's parking areas for those residents and they don't have to, if you're a guest at someone that's kind of in the middle by that pond, you'd have to walk, park on the side of the road, hopefully there's a spot there, and then walk a couple 100 feet down to your friend's house that's there. So I just want to make sure that there's parking areas contact sensitive to the area.
As staff, we did an analysis after the briefings, and we estimated that the furthest parking spaces that will serve that specific area will be approximately 300 feet. All the other ones are closer to the units that they will serve.
Okay, that's pretty far. I mean,
Yeah,
I understand the desire to have Muse-fronted lots facing that gas main easement, but it saves money, I get it, but then it's just kind of a disservice to some of the residents. And public safety issue, if you have to get a fire truck through there, I mean, those alleys will get probably cars trying to park and have issues, so I just want to have that looked into. It shows that the amenity for phases 1, 2, and 3, phases 4 and 5 will utilize that. Is the building and the pool and everything sized for an additional 264 units?
I'm sorry.
What's your
Brock
name, please?
Altafer, Osceola Engineering. The amenities in Phase 1 were oversized to begin with, but we are also providing amenities in this phase. There will be a pool and cabana, lots of walking trails all throughout. I think we've got an amenity plan if you'd like to see that.
Okay, I didn't hear them mention the pool cabana before, because I know there's
Yes.
just pool sizing requirements. Any trails along the gas main, or is that not allowed per the gas main easement?
We haven't finalized the grading in there, so I'm not sure if they're going to be ADA, but the primary purpose of that is going to be a multipurpose playfield. On the bottom side of that, that's the area where we're trying to save a lot of those trees. So there could be potential that we have trails walk through, kind of meander through that area. We're just kind of not quite to that stage yet.
Okay. And then the southern pond, the green space that's right there is the only spot that doesn't have trees on it in that area. Like if it just flipped to the other side or something, it could save some of those trees, so.
I think I can't remember the exact reason we did that, but there was a specific reason. I can get with you later on if I can dig up some emails.
Okay. And then, I don't know if this is a requirement or not, but is there a reason there's no lake amenity or like a lookout or anything? Or there could be?
We do have an amenity down by the lake. There's a pavilion in the open space area that's between some of those lots that leads out towards the lake.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems like a great amenity for the neighborhood just to have that. Okay. That's all my questions. So are you guys in agreement to make some of those updates to square footage, side load garage?
Was that in the PD ordinance that was written?
Page 1656 of the agenda packet that I have.
Yeah, I have no problem with those changes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any further discussion? Questions? Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of this first reading of ordinance 2022-40?
Motion to approve, including staff's recommendations, and then with the understanding that some of those comments are incorporated into the second reading.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second, Councilmember Trace, a motion from Councilmember Trace, second from Councilmember Askew. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 14?
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2022-51, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, closing, vacating, and abandoning a platted right-of-way and platted utility easement located east of Old Canoe Creek Road and north of Pine Lake Drive, specifically described in the body of this ordinance, providing for an effective date.
Good evening to that. I
Can't go
forgot that
anywhere.
item was
Hang
going
on a
to.
second. Dagmar, you're going to hang on a second, please?
Yes.
So I have a conflict with this item. This is my house. I've already filled out the paperwork and submitted it to the clerk prior to the meeting, and so I will be abstaining from the vote.
Thank
All
you.
right, so noted. Councilmember Matheny is abstaining.
Good evening, Dagmar Istagara, Planning Manager. The request in front of you is for a right-of-way vacate for a property located at 4306 Oak Court. The property is located at 4306 Oak Court and is in .482 acres of the easement and .0339 acres for the right-of-way. The subject site, as I said, is located east of Old Canoe Creek Road and north of Pine Lake Drive. The applicant is requesting the vacation of the right-of-way along Oak Court and vacation of the utility easement in the rear yard. After DRC or staff review the request based on the section of the Land Development Code 5.5.4 and .6, and has no objections or has received no utility in the right-of-way objections. It meets the strategic goal of infrastructure, and staff recommends approval of ordinance 2022-51. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item?
Good evening, Council. Sean Hendel, Hanson Walton Associates, 8 Broadway, Kissimmee, Florida. Representing the applicant, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. We'll receive any public comment at this time. Would anyone like to speak to this item? If not, we'll entertain a motion and/or discussion by council. I'm sorry, Councilmember Trace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the 15-foot easement in the back, it looks like the neighbor's house is like on the easement if it continues on to the neighboring property. So I don't know if like, as we're going through this for staff to like kind of look at some of these and maybe get some of the neighbors on board to like do it all at once. So I think one other neighborhood, we had like 2 or 3 kind of bounce around and kind of requesting the same thing. So just to save staff time, I don't know if it's possible for us to enlist the help of the neighbors. So I'm fine with the utility easement vacation. It's just the right-of-way vacation. I kind of asked this question during the agenda review, but I just did, I had solid issues. Is it possible for the fire truck to kind of make the cul-de-sac, make the turn in the cul-de-sac?
Oh, even better, even better.
Jason Miller, Fire Chief. No, currently. The area has some cypress trees in the center of the circle. We looked at all the mapping and the diagrams provided the site plan. If we were to expand it to current modeling and put sidewalks in, the sidewalk would almost be touching the front door or the corner of the house, rather. It'd eat up half to 2/3 of the driveway. This is an area that's been like this since, I think 1973-ish, actually before I was born. So we've learned to adapt and overcome in that area regardless. So long story short, We don't use that cul-de-sac as a cul-de-sac. We use it as a dead-end road.
Okay. And it's short enough that I don't see it as a huge issue. It's not like it's 1,000 feet
No
long,
issues.
so.
We've run some calls there in the years past and had no issues in and out.
So then I don't think we'd probably ever go through and redo that cul-de-sac.
That would probably be a Mr. Feblinger question, but I'll defer to him on that one. Oh, he's not here. I couldn't see us doing that. We'd put the cul-de-sac would be within 9 feet of the house at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sturgeon?
Yes, Mr. Tracy made a request for looking at a condition. Could you repeat that? And I saw Mr. Askew shaking his head. I just needed one more person.
Oh, it's just like, sometimes when we have these easements that probably were put in for a purpose, but then it never kind of came to fruition, you know, there's 3 or 4 neighbors on either side. Should we just try to do it all at once? Because I'm sure once word gets out that the easement in the backyard is kind of reduced or removed, other folks might want to join in.
Are there any objections from staff from that being pursued?
Well, maybe.
No objection, but just to remind you, we are still working on land development code changes that's going to make it easier to vacate these easements. Because as you say, Mr. Trace, there's a lot of these easements out there that were put in place with the best intentions, but they're not being used for anything. So right now, the process is a little cost prohibitive. Frankly, the owner of this property had a greater purpose to go ahead and move forward with this process because they could do the right-of-way vacation and the easement in the same application. Another property owner may not want to go through it under the city's current code. So as soon as we get the code changed, then we could probably reach out a little bit to these neighborhoods and make it a little easier on them.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have further discussion by council? Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of ordinance number 2022-51?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew. I'll make a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carried 4-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you. Good to see Sean. This brings us to council action. Item number 1 has been pulled by the city manager. Item number 2 and 4, could you please read those?
Resolution number 2022-158R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, establishing certain procedural requirements as set forth by Ordinance 2016-57 for the potable water base facility, monthly base facility, and volume charge for municipal customers and county customers pursuant to Section 44-336, 44-340, and 44-343 of the City of St. Cloud Code, repealing all resolutions and conflicts and providing an effective date. Resolution number 2022-163, a resolution to the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, establishing certain procedural requirements set forth by Ordinance 2016-57 for the monthly base facility and volume charge for sanitary sewer and reclaimed water services for municipal customers and counties customers pursuant to Section 44-117, 44-121, 44-259, and 44-261 of the City of St. Cloud's City Code, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date.
Good evening, Council. Todd Swingle, Executive Director with Toho Water Authority. We will walk back through this material. This is the same general material that I provided to you at your last meeting as part of a larger presentation about the transition to Toho Water Authority management. So the transition, ongoing, customer communications, I gave you that update at June 23rd. We're now here for a hearing to adopt Toho rates. As I have mentioned, this is an interim rate structure which very closely mimics Toho's rates with just a few little differences. The August would be where this becomes effective, so for August use, which customers would then see in their September bills with the first billing cycle where these would be reflected coming out. The bills would come to customers September 14th. By October 2023 then is the transition from the interim rate structure to full Toho rates. That would occur concurrently as we make final integration of our customer information systems. We would also, during that time period between now and then, ensure that all other miscellaneous fees are aligned as well. This is an overview of those rate structures. I've highlighted a couple cells where those are different. This is really driven by the customer information system. So you have tiers that's slightly different from TOHO's. Our initial tier stops at 2,000, yours stops at 3. Our second tier stops at 5,000, yours stops at 6. So in those cases, we're actually carrying our lower rate tiers up a little higher, so that benefits your customers further. When you get further on down into the 19 and 20,000 gallons, which is quite a bit of water, and particularly where those are used for irrigation and reuse, then in those cases, we're bringing our 20,000 gallon tier down to that 18,000 mark. Overall, for your standard water and sewer customer, you can see it provides a rate savings for a water and sewer customer up through 6,000 gallons inside the city, or up through about 13,000 gallons outside the city. That's based upon that current 25% surcharge. One of the approaches that we have is we are completely levelizing all rates. About 80% of your bills fall within that usage level, 97% within the county. As we have presented previously, we have gone through and taken a look at the entire year's worth of consumption. These projections show that 73% would see cost decrease. That other 27 could see increases. Those are predominantly driven. Tend to be larger commercial customers. It could be some larger multifamily, but the predominant component of that has to do with irrigation, and in particular, reclaim irrigation. To help you also see that, I've done a combined bill analysis. That combined bill analysis shows where the rate benefits occur. This is for a customer using 4,000 gallons indoor water and sewer. This does include the base rate. In general, TOHO's base rate is much lower. And our first tiers are very low, and that's really geared at making sure that your customers that are lower income, lower use, that is a lifeline rate to ensure that we know that water is a critical need for everyone, and it's intended to keep those rates as low as possible. And then we do escalate through various tiers to promote conservation. On the potable irrigation side, your break-even point is between that 10 and 15,000 gallon mark inside the city limits. On the reclaim side, it's in between that 5,000 and 6,000 gallon mark. You can see the difference between your irrigation is that it has been one of the things where your reclaim rates have been quite a bit lower than your potable irrigation, and that does contribute to higher levels of use on that irrigation resource. One of the things that TOHO is doing in our rates and over time is continuing to treat water as one water, so that now with that does come along that obligation of making sure that we're delivering a reliable resource with reclaim. But ultimately, that is the goal, is to treat all water as one water. With that, we will have upcoming communications. We'll have very broad communications geared at the masses and all of the customers. That will include webpage, social media, news and press releases, local stories. We are also initiating targeted communication focused on those users that could experience an increase, predominantly higher reclaimed water use, large commercial multifamily uses. Those customers would receive a direct mailer. In general, we've established our target point at anyone that would see an increase of greater than 10% and at least $10. We also, on your very largest users that could be impacted, we are making direct contact with those. We do have some additional programs in place that are not our standard rate programs, but that are available to large reuse users with 2-inch meters and larger. It's called a commercial allocation rate. And in that case, we go in and do an evaluation of that property, look at the amount of irrigable area, and it's entirely possible that if their irrigable area is larger and that a larger volume of water is justified, it allows us to expand those tiers and help bring those rates down. So that's something that is available and that we're making that direct contact as well. The other thing that I think is very important is we do expect there to be continued opening of grant programs through the South Florida Water Management District. The information we have is the next grant cycle we expect money to start to be available in about the December time period. And we are entirely supportive of and will be pursuing grant opportunities, because there's some of these systems where, and we've seen a few that we've already talked to, where irrigation systems may not have been set up. One particular example we have is we've got 2 different types of irrigation nozzles, one that would typically need 10 or 15 minutes a zone, another that might need 30 or 40 minutes a zone. They're on the same zone. And so because of that, the timer is driven by the one that needs more time, and so that wastes 2 to 3 times the amount of water in that zone. So there's some of those types of conversions. We've also had a lot of success with smart irrigation controllers that look at weather projections and or even soil moisture as a means to help conserve water as well. And with that, I would be happy to entertain any questions.
First of all, would anyone in the audience have any questions or comment? If not, we'll entertain discussion and a motion by council.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion for approval of resolution number 2022-158R.
Second.
Do I have a second? I have a second. I have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second Councilmember Askew. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of resolution number 2022-163R?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second from Councilmember Trace. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Swingle. We look forward to working with Toho.
3.
Brings us to item number 3.
3.
Mr. Manager? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. If you recall,
You want
back...
to read the resolution?
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Dan.
Do what?
Resolution number
I'm gonna read the resolution.
2022.
Just to read
Yeah, I'm
this.
sorry, you're getting ahead of me.
Resolution number 2022-162R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, approving and authorizing the mayor to execute a temporary delegation of operational authority interlocal agreement between the city and Topaliga Water Authority, Toho, providing and authorizing the city manager to authorize Toho to provide operational and management activities as needed for the city's water and wastewater utilities, subject to final authority of the city manager, providing an effective date.
You want to speak now, or we need to let Todd speak first?
If I could just preface the discussion. First off, if you recall back in February, we were directed to integrate with Toho Water Authority, and the processes have been going very well. And my lead has been Deputy City Manager Veronica Miller, who's done a great job with project management and bringing all the teams together, and then also Mr. Swingle's leadership. But we're at this point that we really need one person in charge of the operations of the water utility, and that's why we bring this before you tonight. Some of the controls that are put in place, if it's an HR issue, still remain under the city manager's authority. We'll still follow city purchasing and finance policies also. With that, I'll turn it over to Todd.
Todd?
What he said. Again, you do have the background. The interlocal was approved specifically. This would temporarily delegate the operational authority. It does not change the official transition date, which remains as the targeted for October 1st, and we are on track for that. It does, and it has been something where the staff have been working very well together, but we are both working on transition, but very much beginning to be embedded in day-to-day in support of projects. You've approved this reimbursement agreement, and we're providing a fair bit of assistance. Our operations folks are assisting your operations folks on a number of activities, and so we do concur with the city manager that it brings clarity to that day-to-day operations. As the city manager said, we'll be working with underneath the city policies in terms of HR policies and procurement and those types of things. So with that, we do request approval.
Councilmember Matheny?
Thank you. I agree with this wholeheartedly. I think you get to a point where it's kind of like who's got the ball. I know, like, whenever we get the agenda items, I ask staff to add in there that you've coordinated everything with Toho, because, you know, we'd be acquiring things and spending money, and I'm like, well, are we running this past Toho? So I fully support this. I'll make a motion to approve.
Before we do, does anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we have a motion for Councilmember Matheny for the adoption.
Second.
Did I hear something? for the adoption of Resolution 2022-162R. Mr. Colby, would you like to make a statement or make a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And if I may, I'll approach the dais. Our board approved this last
Yes,
night,
you
and
may
this is
do
the
that.
signed copy.
Madam Clerk, that brings us to item number 5.
Resolution number 2022-190, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, authorizing the mayor to enter into a second amendment and a restatement of the interlocal agreement dated December 16, 2003, between Osceola County and the City of St. Cloud, Kissimmee, and the City of St. Cloud and Osceola School District. Distribute the proceeds of the discretionary local government infrastructure sales surtax.
Good evening again, Wendy Colazzo, Finance Director. Before you, you have Resolution number 2022-190R. This is the Second Amendment and reinstatement of the interlocal agreement for the local discretionary sales tax, also known as the 1% tax or the penny tax. So to give you some background, we're going to go through some slides, just a run through of this resolution. As of June 5th, 1990, the levy of this discretionary local government infrastructure sales tax started off with an initial 15 years. Following that in 99, an extension of that same was done for the sales surtax for another additional 20 years, and that was approved by the majority on the question for the special election. The levy of such discretionary local tax, again, is scheduled to expire on September 1st of 2025. The sales tax is between 0.5 to 1.5%, with the proceeds distributed to the county, the municipalities within that county, and because of the interlocal agreement between the governing authority of those bodies. In layman's terms, between the City of Kissimmee, City of St. Cloud, the Osceola County, and then the Board of the School District. The county has requested that governments approve this proposed distribution, and pending that referendum, the Board of County Commissioners approved the interlocal agreement on June 27th, 2022. This agreement continues the same formulation that has been used since the tax was implemented. This also is in reference to complying with Florida Statute Section 212054, Paragraph 5. This is the extension of that local infrastructure sales, approved by the ordinance eventually of the Osceola County Board of County Commissioners and approved by referendum, again, January 1st, 2025. This local agreement amends and reinstates the agreement for the distribution formula until December 31, 2045. That is exactly 20 years and 4 months. Before you, this is the infrastructure just sales tax extension timeline, which walks you through what has happened thus far. As you can see, we are at July 14th, 2022, with the request of the City of St. Cloud adopt the ILA. As other agencies, as you can see, on July 12th, the school district adopted the LA according to their meeting, and before that, the City of Kissimmee on July 5th of 2022. The following actions in that timeline will be July 18th, the Board of County Commissioner adopts that with the tax extension ordinance, and July 27th, they submit the ballot language. A brief description, of course, the collection of this sales tax. This occurs when there's transactions in the delivery within the county, and that imposes a surtax and is subject to that sales tax and surtax. Some highlights of the discretionary sales tax. How would these transactions be collected for this tax? Things like a delivery of taxable goods in the county. The event of an emission is charged, that would be taxed, the surtax. Consumer electricity in the county. Prepaid calling arrangements, that's your COM surtax on that. Location of delivery of tangible personal property. Commercial real property that is leased or rented with a license for it, which is granted in the county. Rental of living or sleeping accommodations, and registered dealing owing taxes on purchases. Again, in layman's term, anything you can feel, touch, and use. That's it. Uses of the discretionary sales tax, once those are applied, will be used by the county, municipalities, and the school district to finance, plan, design, engineer. They can acquire land, improve construction, and reconstruct infrastructure, again, defined by the Chapter 212055 of the Florida statute. To solidify and just transparently show you the local discretionary sales tax, the formulation and default formula, as you can see on the left-hand side, and then the 1% tax rate with the local interlocal agreement, its estimated distribution. The percentages that you see there with the interlocal, 54% to Osceola, Kissimmee at 12, St. Cloud at 8.1, and the school district at 25% with the interlocal agreement. For St. Cloud, estimated at $5.1 million. I can report to you that currently we are trending right now at $7.1 million money in the bank. Rate formula and the way the city's share is calculated. This is a half-cent ordinary. We take city population of St. Cloud divided by the total county incorporated population, and then 2/3 that population. Then, of course, you multiply it by all the sales tax monies that are earmarked for distribution. The Florida state tax, if you're not aware, is 6%. The Osceola County discretionary overall is 1.5%. Based on our interlocal agreement, again, those are the percentage breakdowns. Staff is recommending approval of Resolution 2022-190R and is requesting such action from the council to approve 2022-190R. I'm looking at it weirdly because there was a slide where we showed you the math on tax that was requested. I don't see it on there, but I can walk you through if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Manzares.
Just to clarify, two things. First of all, obviously, this is the interlocal agreement that would extend the sales tax distribution in the event that the voters approve the extension of the tax. The second piece is, and Ms. Galazo anticipated this based on the school board's meeting that occurred on July 12th, but the school board did not approve the agreement as of yet. They do have a meeting set for Monday where they're going to reconsider the agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Christine Lattistrake, and I reside in Pine Chase Estates. And actually, Mr. Manzares kind of addressed it, that the school board was supposed to have their vote, and they didn't. So I was going to ask if we could wait to have this vote until after. So.
Thank you for your comment. Would anyone else have any comments you'd like to make?
Good evening, Sean Hendel, Hanson Walter Associates, 8 Broadway, Kissimmee, Florida. Just so you guys know that I've been sitting on the School Board Business Advisory Board for probably over 15 years now. We meet every month, we review all financials, and we make recommendations to the school district. So at our meeting this past Wednesday, there was a motion that was made and passed by the Business Advisory Board meeting to recommend to the school district that they maintain the existing share thresholds without any change. Just wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you, Ms. Hendel. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council at this time.
Motion to approve.
We have, before we entertain that motion, I have a light from Mr. Trace, Councilmember Trace.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. This is something that necessary evil of keeping taxes like this. I'm not in favor of taxes, and I don't like paying them every year, but it provides necessary services. So as part of our agenda backup, there was kind of a listing of all the infrastructure, fire trucks, a whole multitude of stuff that's been purchased over the last, I think it showed the last 10 years, I think, of the 20 years worth of it. And then I kind of had staff do some math of if this doesn't pass to generate that same revenue, would take that $5 to $7 million kind of number, take our 5.1128 mils, if we did it with ad valorem taxes, up to 6.5 mils or 7 mils to generate that same dollars for us to spend on, the infrastructure that we need, the fire trucks, the ambulances, everything, which is about $400 to $500 per house per year. Something that wasn't mentioned is, I thought there was always a number thrown around before of 50% of sales tax ends up getting paid by tourists. Is that the same ballpark? I haven't heard that in a while.
That is the ballpark, sir. We are still there.
So, I mean, that's kind of a benefit of half of this gets paid by residents that live outside of the county. Granted, we also pay the sales tax to other counties when we're outside of the county as well, but, we'll leave that. That 8.1% breakdown, the percentage breakdown of the sales tax, that's based on population. So is that updated every year whenever we get new population estimates, or how is that?
Yes, sir. I called the Department of Revenue, spoke with their representative so they could give me a quick crash course, and they said that annually it was reviewed across. The interlocal does have and supersede, but it does get reviewed annually by them. Their tax year is January 1st to 31st, so at the end of January is when they're doing the evaluation.
Okay, and then all the dollars go to the county, and I guess they remit to us, our percentage?
Yes, sir. So what happens is all your counties, municipalities, and everybody pays up, their portion and share. The state comes down, throws it down to that county. They put it in a trust fund, which if you see the Osceola County budget, they have a local tax trust fund, and then they distribute based on the interlocal. Every tax is due the 20th of the month, and then the state distributes sometimes they're about 25 days behind, but we get it monthly.
And then we get the interest from that as well?
We sure do, sir.
Okay, good. So, and then what do we spend that on? We spend it on capital projects, capital improvements?
We do spend it on capital projects. We've spent it on IT security items. We've spent it on trucks, fire trucks, public safety. We took a different approach when I came on board, as we knew that it was potentially going to sunset, and we wanted to be proactive in preparation that if it did. So we started changing what we purchased that wouldn't impact the city significantly, because it is a big portion. How are we going to cover $5 million? So we bought a lot of infrastructure as far as fleet vehicles, so that if there was a shift, we can easily pivot. And you are correct when you stated the analysis we did for you on tax and ad valorem and the millage. It is 5.5% to 6% if we did it on the projection, but we're trending at 7 million. In 3 years, we're trending to be at 10 million. So mills would probably be at 7.7, 7.8, almost 8.
Well, and just inflation's making stuff cost more, so that too.
That's right.
Can you go back to the breakdown you had of between the cities and the county?
Yes, sir.
So I thought no matter what, on some of these tax rates, some of the money went to the school board, or is that the half penny that goes to the school board?
It's the half penny. That's the different one. The first two columns, what it says, if we were on a default and there was no interlocal agreement, the school board would not receive nothing based on Florida statute. You don't have to give it to the school board.
Okay.
As you can notice on the right-hand side, once they implemented the interlocal, Osceola County took a portion, which was 25%, from their cut and gave it over to the school board through the interlocal. We always, as far as the government, the Osceola County, Kissimmee, and St. Cloud have to have the majority of it, so we always have to equate out to at least 75%, so we can never be too disbalanced where it would be like school board being at 50% and us at 50%, us three groups, the government should have to be, or Kissimmee, St. Cloud, and the board would have to be at 75% according to what the statute read.
Okay. And then, I mean, we're lucky we only have 2 cities in the county. There's other counties that have, like counties like 16, 18, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do all cities have to join in on this?
No.
Okay, so if we just decided to not join in, we just wouldn't get any funds from it?
Yes, but I think that's more to Dan on the legalities
No,
of that.
not exactly on that piece. So the way the tax works is all the cities get to join in based on the formula, the population formula, right? The provisions of the statute require that the entities shall have an interlocal agreement among the cities and the county. The interlocal agreement can include the school board to receive part of the distribution, but does not have to. If there is no interlocal agreement, then there's a straight distribution based on the population base, which is the formula that's included in interlocal. The interesting thing is, and I know this is a good discussion, is that the way the statute reads is that the approval of that interlocal agreement essentially requires the county to agree to it, and then the municipalities that represent a majority of the municipal population in the county. So because Osceola County only has 2 municipalities, and Kissimmee is bigger than St. Cloud, then by virtue of the math, and I'm a lawyer, and that's why I don't do math, is the majority of the municipal population in the county have already approved this agreement. So the agreement's in place, the agreement's effective. Historically, we've been through this process for a while, as Wendy pointed out, it's been around. It's been an idea that let's all get together and have all the entities collectively agree, and that's what it's been done. However, the reality is, if you say you're not going to agree to it now, the agreement's still effective, and the city would still get the same share that's showing up on that Wendy pointed out.
Okay, I get it. I'm the youngest child, so I get it every child gets that. Okay, so, all right, thank you.
We have any other discussion from council? Councilman Coley?
Yeah, so since this was briefly discussed at our last meeting, I did my research and asked staff many questions, and I did come to the same realization that this is based off of a formula from a state statute based on our population. So I just want to thank Bill and staff, Wendy, for explaining that to us, and I certainly wouldn't want to jeopardize having these funds come into the city. So I'll go ahead and second Deputy Mayor Matheny's motion.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second from Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And it carries. Brings us to item number 6. Madam Clerk.
Request the City Council review and determination on the applicant's request for deviation to the Land Development Code, Section 3.20.36, mini warehouses and storage facilities, and Division 26, non-residential architectural standards.
Good evening, Dagmar Segarra, Planning Manager. The request in front of you is a request for a deviation from 2 sections of the Land Development Code. The 3.20.3, the address is mini warehouse and storage facilities designs, and Division 26, the non-residential architectural standards. The location of the property is located on the west side of Canoe Creek Road, south of Nolte Road, and north of Settle, can't say that word, Settler's Trail. Per the Land Development Code, Section 3.261B, the Land Development Code has provisions for this request of a deviation with the conditions listed as A and B. It is the recommendation of staff to approve the deviations, the requested deviations. And as a form of information, the applicant has provided the following concept plan of the elevations of the storage facility. This is an aerial view from the southeast elevation. The 2 buildings to the front are the buildings that are going to be facing Canoe Creek Road. This is an aerial view from the northeast elevation. The main road that you see up front is the Canoe Creek Road. To the east is the neighborhood Walmart Center. This is a view from the back of the facility. That open space area is a retention pond or stormwater area, and behind that there's some residence dwellings. This is the main elevation to the south. This is the view from Canoe Creek Road. And this is going southeast approach from Canoe Creek Road. And this is from the northeast approach on Canoe Creek Road. That fence that you see there is the fence that it is in the Walmart Neighborhood Center property that is already existing. The applicant, and this is the main view of their office in the entrance. And this is the view from the visibility of the sign from that office angle. One of the things that staff negotiated with or discussed with the applicant was an improvement to the main facades facing Canoe Creek Road, and the applicant provided some fake facades of making it look like they're garage doors or roll-ups. They put a treatment of glazing to make it look like a window, and provided some awnings just to create some visual interesting vision to those facades facing Canoe Creek. They made the same enhancements to the office elevation on the second floor. You can see the glazing and the doors, and the awnings on the parking area. This is the view if you're driving from, or you're standing from the Walmart's neighborhood center and looking into the property, and you can see the fence, the trees that are provided, and the elevation of the building. This is the overall site plan the landscape plan that was discussed with the applicant. The landscape that you see provided on the south of the property, that is an additional landscape provided by the applicant, that it is not required by code. Also, the applicant is also providing similar landscaping to the north next to the existing residential. The existing residential, the future land use of that property is commercial, therefore, the buffer and landscape is not required as well. So the applicant provided some sort of mitigation to mitigate the visual impact from the neighborhood. The applicant is here to answer any questions that you may have, and I will be available as well to answer any questions.
Are you recommending the adoption of the?
It's not an ordinance. It
All
is.
right. Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak?
Hi, my name is Hal Cantor. I'm an attorney with Lowndes, Drozduk, Doster, Cannon, Reed in Orlando, 215 North Eola. We agree with the staff recommendation and are available to answer questions. We have the principal of the business here, as well as consultants that are available.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Is there any discussion from the audience? Do we have any public comment? If not, we'll have discussion under motion by council.
And, Mr. Mayor,
Manzares,
thank
could
you.
you
It
speak
wasn't-
first?
Thank you, appreciate that. And it's in your staff report, but I just want to make sure they understand that this is before you for basically a deviation request. Do that, one of the provisions in your code is that the request has to meet certain criteria. One of the criteria is that the conditions that the deviation is requested from do not result by the applicant's doing, and therefore would create a literal hardship or a hardship to the applicant if they were. That's clearly the case here. The need for this deviations did not occur from the applicant's doing, so it meets the legal criteria of the code to grant for deviation. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have discussion and motion by council at this point. Have any discussion? Could I entertain a motion? Councilmember Askew.
For the record, I did meet Hal, and we kind of chit-chatted a little bit about it, but I would make a motion for.
Councilmember Trace.
Okay, so we're not setting a precedent of the same thing comes in down the street, we have to approve.
That's exactly why we're doing it this way, so we're not setting a precedent. It only applies to this one particular project in the city of St. Cloud.
Okay, and I drove by and took pictures and stuff, and it's definitely under construction, and it just looks like they kind of held off on the front two buildings probably until we get this done, but, okay, it is what it is.
Councilmember Urban.
Yeah, I'd just like to state too that I spoke with the attorney representing the applicant, and I'm definitely not thrilled about it, obviously, but I understand the scenario here, and I would understand. So I did.
Would you like to make a second?
I would make a second, yes.
Thank you very much. We have a motion from Councilmember Askew, a second from Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item number 7.
Discussion and possible action regarding the appointment to the Historic Preservation Board vacancy.
Yes, if you'll see, there was a handout given to you tonight for the Historic Preservation Board vacancy for alternate number 2. That's an at-large appointment. We do have quite a few applicants. There are, besides their name, we have put the type of experience they have. You'll see there are some business owners, someone with law, historian, licensed real estate experience.
Councilmember Matheny.
So I know this is an at-large appointment, so it's not assigned to anyone, but, you know, looking at the members that we already have on the board, I would like to recommend Carmelo Oquendo because they're a real estate agent. I think that would be very helpful in evaluating some of these criteria that come forward. I'll be bringing up some issues later in my time that I've been dealing with the Historic Preservation Board, but I'd like to make a motion for Carmelo, and it's a first choice as well. I always like to try to give it to the first choices.
Councilmember Matheny has nominated Carmelo Oquendo for this vacancy and alternate position number 2. Do we have any other nominations? Can we just do a verbal? Do we need to vote on that?
I'll take a vote, please.
Let's take a vote. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have a second? Any other nominations? Seeing there are none, we have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second from Councilmember Urban for the appointment of Carmelo Oquendo. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings us to item number 8. Madam Clerk.
Discussion and possible action regarding selection of a new city manager.
First of all, Mr. Manzares, do you have any directions for us from your perspective as the attorney?
Other than to say that I'm sorry to have this conversation. So where you are right now, obviously, is Mr. Sturgeon has indicated his retirement and leaving the city, and so we obviously need to move forward with the path of doing that. We have been involved in the process. We've been involved in the process here several times, and there are options available to you as a city council. You obviously can work through the existing HR department, try to post these positions yourself and internally by using internal staff, and then to get a candidate that way. The second option, and the option that is most used by municipalities and counties at this level, is to hire a placement or a search firm to come in and do a complete search to check out and recruit available candidates, and then bring them back before you, vet them, put certain criteria in place so that based on what your discussions with you. Typically how those search firms work is that they do that. They meet with the city council members, they talk to the city council members individual, find out what you're looking for in terms of a city manager. They help you put together essentially a recruitment package talking about what you want, and then they go out into the public sector, employment sector, and bring candidates, and as I said, vet them, and then bring them back into a final group, final number, and then you make the interviews and do that. Those are really the two options you can do that, unless unless anybody feels like they have a candidate they want to offer. If you're going to do a search firm or a placement firm, it's always been our recommendation that the council actually interview those particular firms. There's 4 or 5 firms in Central Florida in the state that specialize in this particular area. It is public sector, so it's a little different than some of the other recruiting firms are out there that do for maybe in the private sector to address it. So there are some that we can do that are available to do this, and they specialize in this. It would be our suggestion that you allow staff to reach out to those. Essentially, there's 4 or 5 that we've worked with before And we would reach out to those and have them come back before you and interview, and then you can decide which one of those placement firms that you want to use. We believe strongly that that has to be a decision made by the city council, not a staff decision, as to who the placement firm is going to be, because they are going to run lead on the process, and they're going to bring back the candidates that you're ultimately going to decide on picking your city manager. So that's sort of the search and the recruitment process. That can take a good amount of time. The last one we were involved in, which was last year actually, started in about April and culminated with the hiring of a city manager in December. And that one actually went a little quicker than I actually thought it was going to be. So because of when you're in the second half of the year and you deal with holidays and all that, it kind of gets in the way. But and that one was successful, but it took that long to go from the start of the process when they first interviewed the search firm to when they went and finally made an offer and got a city manager on board. So you could be looking at that long. Of course, in the interim, you're going to need to have someone in place after Mr. Sturgeon's last day, which is in September, right? September 2nd. So you would have to appoint someone to serve as interim or acting city manager until you're able to get someone on board. So we just need direction from the council on how you want to proceed, and we're happy to help in any way we can.
Thank you. Councilmember Matheny?
Thank you. So I too am sad we're having this conversation, but you know, we got to. So I guess based on Mr. Manzares's kind of summary of where we're at, I think that we should go after a search through a recruitment firm personally. And I also like the idea that we would have the opportunity to interview the recruitment firms. I've been involved in some of these where they do nationwide searches, and the recruitment firm selected is out of California. And I just am like, how the heck do they know, like, you know, local candidates? And personally, I would like to try to find a city manager that's from Florida. I just think Florida is such a different and unique place. I think, you know, when you bring people from outside the state of Florida, I think there's a whole nother level of kind of getting your feet underneath you. We have our own set of problems, but I would like to make a recommendation for an interim, and that would be Ms. Veronica Miller. I think Ms. Miller does a fantastic job in the time that she's been in the city manager's office. I've been impressed with her knowledge and just being able to handle anything. If you call Veronica for anything, she either has the answer, knows who has the answer, did it before, remembers why we did it. You know, I just think her depth of knowledge is just really irreplaceable, frankly. But I would make a motion to move Veronica to interim, I guess the day after Mr. Sturgeon leaves. Is that how it goes? It's like,
That's how it goes.
or are they interim now?
No, I think it would be the day.
Interim upon Mr. Sturgeon's exit from the city of St. Cloud.
I would second that.
We have a motion that Veronica Miller be appointed as the interim city manager. And we have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second from Councilmember Askew. Before we vote on that, is there any discussion regarding that?
And did that motion include going, you know, forward with the selection process of a nationwide firm for a full search, or is it just interim?
I think you should do this motion first since it's on the table, and then we can have some more discussion on that, because there's some other logistics that we'd like to talk to you about how we're going to.
Yeah, the motion didn't include that.
Okay.
You have any other discussion? Well, I certainly think Mrs. Miller, there's no one more qualified to fill that role than her, and I would certainly support that also. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Could you give us some direction on?
Well,
the
since, I guess, is there a consensus that you'd like to interview and then hire a search and placement firm? I know Ms. Matheny already made her feelings known. And so, okay. So assuming there's a consensus, that's the direction you want to go. And we can reach out through the staff and we'll work with the HR department and reach out to the, I'm familiar with 4 that we've worked with in the past. And we would, and we'll probably look for a little and try to bring in 4, maybe 5 that would be willing to come talk to you about doing the job. I think it's best that you set a special meeting to do that, so that you can have quick interviews with each one of them, and then make a pretty quick decision. Once you get them on board, as I said, they're going to start a process before they ever put the request, the notice out on the street that they're searching for a city manager. They're going, as I said, they're going to want to meet with you. They're going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to talk to each individually, get your feels about what you're looking for, look at any special requirements or limitations you might have. If you are inclined to lean towards having somebody who has Florida experience, then that would be one of the things that they would want to work with you on. So, but that process should start. So by that, I mean, that's why I would recommend that you do it at a special meeting so that you can actually take action that night, get that search committee on that search firm on board so they can hit the ground running.
Councilmember Trace.
Thank you. So typically with procurement, I mean, they have to go out, there's notice periods, there's timing, then there's us adopting it.
This is one of the exemptions that are in the procurement policy.
Okay,
You do
perfect.
not have to go through the public procurement policy.
Okay, but we still have to approve the contract, I guess we'd have to.
Right,
that
that's
would
why,
be the special meeting.
that's why we'd set it up. So typically, when the search firms will come with you and they'll tell you, this is what we're going to do and this is what we believe it's going to cost. And we'd ask them, so at the actual interview process, they'd give you an idea of what it's going to cost. They do this pretty much most of them do it on a flat fee basis. It includes includes individual meetings. They'll come to a workshop if necessary. They participate in the vetting and interview process. And then they typically give you a guarantee that basically, it's not really a guarantee, but if the person leaves after a time, then they'll come back and they'll do the search for, half price or just costs or something like that. So that's.
Do we have any other questions? So it's our understanding, it's our consensus that you'll bring back a recommendation of some firms and you'll set a time for a special session for us to consider that. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
we'd like to coordinate that as quick as possible. I would think it would be, we'd probably like to try to do it before your next council meeting, if possible. It's going to be a little quick to get it done by the end of the month, though, because we got to work with individual schedules. But maybe, I know the next council meeting is August 11th, right? So we may want to try to shoot for maybe the week before that, if possible. And there'll be a one-item special meeting.
I'm sure you can get with the city manager and staff and they'll work all that out.
Yes.
Unless he decides to change his mind.
I just slipped him a
It's not going to
C
happen, huh?
What'd you slip me?
So, is there any other discussion regarding that item? If not, then we will go to our city attorney, Mr. Manzares.
I do not have anything, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Sturgeon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. If I could ask Mr. Dave Tomek to come to the podium, please. Mayor and council members, I'd like to introduce you to a familiar face, Mr. Dave Tomek. I've appointed him as an assistant city manager. He'll be reporting to the deputy city manager and working on special projects for us for the city. So welcome, Dave, officially. Thank you for, already impressed with you, so thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Tomek,
you
it's
so
a joy to
much.
have you here. We look
Great
forward
to
to
I look forward to
the
it, too.
significant contributions we know that you will make to our staff and to the council. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
I think Councilmember Askew wants to say something.
Yeah, I did. I'd let staff know. I said, I only have one person from the county's number in my phone, and that was your phone number. So high respect and welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
So does this make my trading card worth more? This was in my jacket for
Yeah,
today.
I'll even sign it for you.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Sturgeon, anything else?
I have nothing else, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Trace.
So had a long agenda tonight, right?
Yes.
I don't like it. Just the way the July and August meetings are, we're just kind of that way when I came on. But is there a specific reason why we have one meeting in July and August?
Because we can.
Okay.
I think Mrs. Miller or myself may be the only ones who know that answer. I don't know if she wants to answer it.
Vacations.
Exactly right.
Vacations.
Exactly
I
right.
feel like August is like your past summer vacations. I feel like it'd be June and July, so you're gonna do that.
There were, at the time that was done, there were competing discussions over when the individual council members took their vacations.
Okay.
Some liked them in July, some liked them in August, so they just said, okay, July and
Oh,
August.
it was the council's
It
vacation.
was the council's,
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's just, we cram a lot into those 2 months, so maybe it's December, we have one meeting, and maybe one in the summer or something, because I just feel bad for staff that has to be here all night, and residents when they want to speak
You're
about
not even
stuff.
going to be here next year.
Keep your comments to yourself.
Give me a break.
Come sit in the audience.
All right, well, I guess I won't approve the next meeting calendar or whenever that comes, right? In August, or October, November, or whatever, so I guess we could vote on it then. Thank you.
Is that it? Councilmember Askew.
Bill, City Manager, I'm just double checking on the pontoon boat issue. The captain is, I know we're trying to work on, come up with something with procurement. I just see him, the guy waits there so patiently, and every day he gets in his boat first thing in the morning and brings it up, and I talked to him today, and he's just like, I'm just waiting, and he's just being real patient. I know we got a workshop coming up and stuff like that.
Right, and that's what we're going to talk about at the beginning of the next workshop on Thursday. And like, as you know, I met with them, I met with the people with the wave runners and all that, and I think we have a plan and want to present that to you and get your feedback before we move forward with an ordinance.
Awesome, okay, that's it for me. And thank you for working with the folks on the downtown, and I think they'll really appreciate everything you guys do for them. Thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Irvin.
So I know it's been a long meeting, so I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, but since I've been on the council, I've learned a lot, and I've been meeting with several different business leaders throughout our community, and there's a perception, whether it's true or not, that it's hard to start a business here in St. Cloud, that it's, for whatever reason, it's really difficult, and I know staff has been doing a great job. I met with the business navigator, and they're working on streamlining things within the city here. But I was wondering if it's possible, or if there'd be any council support to maybe put together a small business task force or something that could get some business leaders together to bring some recommendations to the council to maybe clean up some of our ordinances and make it easier on staff, easier on business owners to get a business started here in St. Cloud.
So we talked a little bit about that amongst staff, and one of our recommendations would be assign that to the EDAC and see if we can move it forward through that process. And maybe they interview business owners as an EDAC and come back with recommendations.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that as well, so just,
I think you certainly have a consensus on that.
okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Urban.
Awesome, that's all for me, thank you.
Oh, that was short. Councilmember Matheny.
So I have two items, and I agree with Mr. Urban wholeheartedly. This one item kind of rolls into that. And I'm not sure what's happening, but there seems to be a lot of confusion, and I'm not sure what it is. And so maybe the task force would be great to have somebody go through the, mousetrap and try to figure out where the confusion is. And a lot of times, too, I see on social media, like a lot of times the city gets blamed for things, and then when I would speak with the city manager's office, I would find out, well, it's truly the state of Florida, it's not the city of St. Cloud. Like, things get misconstrued, I get, but I hear this constantly, too. And then, I'll call and try to help. People will call me and I'll try to help. And then I just don't really know why it feels like it is very difficult. And so I think that's a great idea. Maybe just send some, like, how you have the secret shoppers? Send some people through with, like, trying to open a business or something and see if they can kind of catch the pitfalls. But part of this I'm going to roll into is the Historic Preservation Board and our ordinance. Like, I fully support this project, I do. But I've had two businesses come to me just having all kinds of issues where they turn a permit in, and I understand that it's new. It's new. But I also think there needs to be like a mousetrap on the backside of it, like the historic preservation checklist, like when you go to the Water Management District, they have to give you an approval or comments in this period of time or it's approved. You know, there needs to be some kind of back door to it in my mind, so it's not just like this, oh, well, we haven't looked at it yet, and then 2 weeks into replacing a door, they get all these comments from the Historic Preservation Board where they didn't even know they had to do it, you know? So I know the system is new. I know they put a system in place to catch this was a particular issue with somebody changed a door, and they were told when they turned the application in that it would be 1 day. And then 2 weeks later, the business calls me and is like, what am I supposed to do here? And so then I call and I find out, then they get all these comments from the Historic Preservation Board, which I'm not disagreeing with the comments of the Historic Preservation Board, but it's kind of like, where's the disconnect here, you know? And then, you know, so we've had a couple of missteps with that. So I just want to talk to council to see if also as part of streamlining, you know, we just kind of maybe put a backdoor system to the historic preservation, like they have to give their comments within this period of time. Like we can't put another layer on to businesses trying to open, right? Because it's mostly businesses that are getting caught with it right now. And I just think it's, I just wanted to see how the other members feel. I totally support what we're trying to do. I think we just need to use some common sense with it right now and kind of go, if we don't have the staff or we can't get to it or whatever, maybe some things you have to just let it go and let people move on with their permitting process.
Well, any comment?
I don't, if it's okay. I don't know what it entails. I guess it's historic is so broad, and I get where you're like, even when we replaced the door, we weren't in the historic, but I'm like, can I replace the door? You know,
Right.
is it, you know, and then I come to find out I have to replace it per code. So, yeah, I don't know what and I think Christina Dalton being new sort of to it, I think she's
Yeah.
going to add to it. And I think if you tell her that, I think that she can probably factor
Well,
that
I
in
think
and seen it.
I think it's been. I haven't been talking with her. I've been talking with the city manager's office, but I think, you know, everybody's really excited and everybody's really, you know, wanting to do it. I think we just got to work on our process because I certainly don't want to, because that's the call I get. I can't open my business.
Right.
It's over, you know, it's over this little thing. And then I'm like, well, why is it taking so long to tell someone that it doesn't work? You know, like.
It's the mom and pops that get hit with this.
Yeah, I know. It's the people who've never done it before are the ones who get caught in it. They don't know the process and things
Right.
like that. And I believe in it, and I think we're going to get there. I think just we need to maybe have like a pop-off valve. Like if you can't, some things maybe you have to get, you know, let it go if you can't get to it and can't.
Well, I'd certainly love to see some recommendations from the staff on how it could be streamlined and split up. You know, it shouldn't be exponentially more expensive, and it shouldn't be exponentially more difficult time-wise, just because it's historic.
Right.
And I know that that's been a frustration that I've heard expressed numerous times.
Okay. And my second item is easy.
Well, I had a comment on that one, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm late.
Well, I'm sorry, I
So
didn't see your light.
I just recently reviewed the architectural standards on commercial construction because we had just had that item, and I just wanted to go through, and a lot of the requirements are kind of if this, then that, do 3 of these, 1 of these, depending on the size. Like, it leads to a lot of interpretation for a lot of this, and just one of those of someone just has to go, does it look pretty or not? Are the historic standards, are they the same way, or is it very prescriptive of use these specific doors, use these specific things?
From
I don't know how to.
From what I've seen, and I'll let somebody in the audience who's smarter than me on this, but it seems like, I'm not to throw Christine under the bus or anything, but it seems like she's the party of one.
Yeah.
You know, like approving things, but also some of it's written in our Main Street documents and things like that. I think it's just a conversation we probably need to have, like keeping in mind, I don't want to add more burden to someone, you know, trying to get a business open.
Yeah, well, and it's hard enough to get a standard door right now, let alone if it has to be a custom door or something that's
Right.
like I don't know the specific
And
issues.
yeah,
but-
so I'm sure staff can come up with a brilliant way to address this.
Ms. Miller, can you clear up the fog?
We do not currently have specifications like that for specific doors or things like that. Currently, what the process is we would review the item and give a certificate of appropriateness to ensure that it's compatible with the surrounding businesses, the era of when that building was, or the year when that building was built. Additionally, we do have the intent to move forward with design guidelines for the historic district, and that will help solidify some of that detail that I think the council is hoping that we start to provide to the residents. We have discussed applying for grants, and I believe she's either applied for a grant or we had agreed that we were just going to go forward and use our current budget. I can't remember which of those two options we finalized, but we are moving forward with the intent to get design guidelines. Additionally, regarding the process, we made a mistake. Unfortunately, there was a door. The permit came in. We have put in place a new process that there's a daily report that's run to ensure that if somebody has applied and it requires a historic review, there will be a report run, they'll catch it, and they will send it to Christine. The certificate of appropriateness process can be time consuming because they have to apply, they have to review the application, schedule it for a historic preservation board meeting, so that those items can take time. Our first district is our first historic preservation district that the city selected was in a commercial district. And I think that the board is feeling some of, those pressure points because we chose a historic area where people do want to move quickly. So
I have an idea. I think the gentleman right behind you, Dave, don't look around. I think you're the guy. I think he's Mr. Special Projects. He would be able to help come up with a system and a process, I think, to help get the businesses open and streamline the system.
he used to wear a pin that said "Open for Business."
Open for business. I know. I think it says smile now. I'm not 100% sure of it.
Well, and that's almost some of my gripe with CRA, like for some of those facade grants, like you can't wait 6 months to get through the process to then go for it. So like you can't not, paying rent for 6 months and not getting the improvement done or the whatever done just isn't possible. So
Sure.
streamline a lot of the stuff.
Councilman Raskin.
I'd like to leave on a nice positive note. We were evaluated with 1,500 cities in the entire nation, and we ranked 46 in opening a business in St. Cloud, although I don't think it's mom and pop. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Well, I mean, we're doing some things great, and then I think some things we need working on, and I think that's one of them. But we are rated 46 out of 1,500 cities, which is amazing to me, so great.
Very good.
Okay, my second item is easy. I feel like I ask about this a lot, and the lights look terrible still on New York. Like 50% of the lights are out. When I came into the meeting today, like entire strings are just completely out. Mr. Askew probably sees it every day, but I ask about the lights a lot, and it's always like they're on order. So I don't know if we're buying cheap lights or we never get the lights, but could we focus on
I will double check with Ms. Holtkamp. Again, the last thing I got 3 or 4 weeks ago is they were on order. I don't know what the supply chain issues, but I'll check into it.
I know,
for you.
but it seems like it's a constant, like the lights are out, like, so I don't know if we've got bad strings, we need to upgrade the lights, but it's.
I'll make a commitment to
chronic.
evaluate the entire system.
Great, thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
That's it for me.
Thank you. I do not have anything, so we'll move to our information section, report section. Thursday, July the 21st, we have City Council workshop at 3 p.m. here in council chambers. Monday, August 1st, we have a City Council budget workshop, 3 p.m. here in council chambers. Tuesday, August the 2nd, we have a City Council budget workshop, if necessary, at 3 p.m. in council chambers. Thursday, August the 4th, we have a CRA meeting at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. Thursday, August 11th, we have a City Council meeting at 6:30 p.m. here in council chambers. Reports are available. Warrant list number 15, Recreation Advisory Committee minute meetings for March have been approved and are available for review. Historic Preservation Board minutes for April have also been approved and are available. With that, we're adjourned.
You got it.